Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. This is Sham Kagodia. Now, before I start the discussion, if there is no issue with the sound, can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, done. So, one more MCQ is there. Let's solve it here itself. Have a look at the MCQ now. With reference to India's 5-year plans, which of the following statements is or are correct? Let's solve. First one, from the second 5-year plan, there was a determined thrust towards substitution of basic and capital goods industries. Statement 1 is correct or wrong? Look at the statement 1. From the second 5-year plan, there was a determined thrust towards the substitution of basic and capital goods industries. What is the meaning of it? If you remember the second 5-year plan, I told you one point there. In case of second 5-year plan, the important point is we started manufacturing and promoting heavy industries in India. We started promoting consumer goods in India. What is the meaning of it? Simple. Rather than importing all of these goods, rather than importing these kind of goods into the Indian market, we'll promote all of these industries in the domestic market. Is the logic okay? I'll repeat it. Rather than promoting the import of all of these goods, right, we'll simply substitute them. We'll substitute the imports by promoting the production of these goods in the domestic market. That is exactly the first statement. It is basically the meaning of the first statement. So first statement is correct. Fourth 5-year plan adopted the objective of correcting the earlier trend of increased concentration of wealth and economic power. Right? Yes or wrong? Correct or wrong? What do you remember regarding the fourth 5-year plan? What do you remember regarding the fourth 5-year plan? Right? You will see that the government of India will be now focused on implementing, right, let's say reforms to promote, let's say, poverty eradication, reforms to promote employment in India, and etc. etc. Again, after that, it will continue. So second statement is also correct. In fact, sir, you have not told this specifically, etc. etc. I've told you one point earlier. Initially, for certain number of 5-year plans, Government of India followed the concept of trickle down. And I told you, after a certain number of 5-year plans, Government of India changed the policy. Right now, they realized they will not be able to have the impact of trickle down. So now we will start implementing various schemes or policies in order to ensure that poverty will be addressed, employment would be generated, etc. etc. So second statement is correct. In the fifth 5-year plan, for the first time, the financial sector was included as an integral part of the plan. Anyways, we have not discussed the financial sector reforms as a part of plan. Financial sector will come as a part of industrial policy of Government of India, not as a part of the planning. So third one is wrong. So 1 and 2 are correct. Right option for the question will be option A, 1 and 2 only. Okay, right option for the question is option A, 1 and 2 only. Now let's start. So a descriptive question, right? In the last 5 years, one question has come. Let's have a look at it. How are the principles followed by Niti Aayog different from those followed by the erstwhile Planning Commission in India? In simple terms, they're asking you the difference between the Planning Commission as well as Niti Aayog. Right? We have seen a table where on one side I've written what were the principles, or let's say what were the features of Planning Commission. On the other side, what are the features associated with Niti Aayog? That is exactly the answer to this question. Right? Anybody has a doubt regarding this? Please do let me know. Anybody has a doubt? Right? What should be the approach to this kind of a question? Start with an introduction. Again, 3 parts. Start with the introduction, then the main body, and then finally the conclusion. Right? Briefly give certain 1 or 2 statements regarding Planning Commission as well as Niti Aayog. Right? The Planning Commission was proposed by Government of India in 1950, right, to implement 5-year plans. But post 2015, the Planning Commission has been disbanded and government has set up Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India. Now, what will be there in the main body? right, principles followed by the planning commission. What were the principles? Top to bottom planning or top to down approach of planning. One plan for whole of India, one size fits all approach. There will be no representation of the states in the planning commission, right? And the planning commission had financial powers. These are some of the important, let's say, features associated with the planning commission. And what about Niti Aayog? Niti Aayog follows a bottom-up approach. That is, plans should be made at a village level, then successfully implemented at higher levels. Niti Aayog will not have any kind of financial powers. Niti Aayog has a governing council where there's a representation of the state government, which means whenever policies are made, whatever is the input of the state governments, that will also be considered, right? So these are certain very important points regarding the Niti Aayog. Okay, now conclusion, limitations of Niti Aayog, and right, what can you do regarding these limitations? You can provide it. Right, so this is basically the approach that you're supposed to have for the descriptive question. Any doubts in the planning? Let me know. Any doubts in the planning? Some of you are asking, sir, how much of the chapters are left out? Simple. We are left with infrastructure. We'll discuss infrastructure. We are left with investment types in India, and we are left with employment, inclusive growth, and IMF. If we discuss all of it, that's it. That's the scope of the Indian economy chapters that we wanted to cover in the session as such. Shall I go to the next one now? The next chapter that I'll be starting now will be investment models. Investment models. Now, what we'll be discussing? Focus on this, right? So, because from the last couple of weeks, I've been telling you FDI, FTI, FTI. Today, we will have a detailed discussion. So what I'll be covering under this chapter, we'll start with the foreign direct investment. Then we'll have a discussion regarding foreign portfolio investment. Then we'll have a discussion on special economic zones, SEZ. Then NIMZ, National Investment Manufacturing Zones. And finally, PPP, Public-Private Partnership. Do not worry about the long form. These are there in respective slides. Let me start with the first one, that is FDI and FPI. Now follow the concepts carefully here. Whenever you talk about foreign investment in India, generally there could be two ways, right, through which foreign investment will come. One is called as a foreign direct investment. Let me check whether I've written it or not. I have not written it anywhere. So I'll write it, don't worry. Nowhere. So I'll write it. I'll write for both of it. Right. So one is foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment. And second one is foreign portfolio investment. Foreign portfolio investment. Okay, so one is foreign direct investment and the second one is foreign portfolio investment. Now, what is the basic idea? Whenever foreign investment will come into India, it can come in two ways. One is FDI and the second one is FPI. But what is the basic difference here? How do you differentiate between what is FDI and what is FPI? First, start with a definition here. FDI refers to the investment. I repeat, FDI refers to the investment that is done by a foreign company in India. Whereas FPI refers to investment done by an institution, right? I repeat, an institution done in India. Now, some of you will say, sir, even then, right, nothing is clear here. Let me give a simple example. A foreign company, let's say, will bring, right, I'll take a dollar here, will bring 100, right, dollars and let's say set up a manufacturing facility. Let's say they will set up a manufacturing facility. This is example 1. Example 2, from the foreign market, that is outside India, let's say $100 will flow into India, but this $100 will be used to purchase corporate bonds. It will be used to purchase, let's say, corporate bonds. Or it will be used to purchase, right, shares of company. Now, do you think both of them are one and the same? That is, if I number them 1 and 2, do you think both of them are one and the same? Absolutely no. Understand the difference between both. In the case of the first one, the investment is done in physical assets. In case of the first one, the investment is done in the physical asset. And the second, right, some of you are saying issue with the sound. Any issue with the sound? Is there any issue with the sound? Can you go forward? Okay, done. Those who say, sir, I have some issue with the sound, there is a button, right? There is basically a button like this, fix sound, right? So please place on it, the issue will be resolved. Okay. So in the first case, the investment that has come into the Indian market, it is in the physical assets. Physical assets means what? A company is set up, right? The machines have been purchased, right? The manufacturing facility is set up, etc. Whereas in the second case, what has happened? In the case of the second example, the investment has come into India. It has not gone into the physical asset, rather it has gone into financial assets. Rather, it has gone into financial assets. So in the case of one example, the money has gone into physical assets. In the second example, it has gone into financial assets. So that is the reason why we differentiate, why we generally differentiate between FDI and FPI. The idea is that whenever you talk about FDI, foreign direct investment, in the case of foreign direct investment, foreign money will come into India. It will go into, let's say, a manufacturing facility. It will go into development of, let's say, an infrastructure. It will go into a services sector, etc., etc. But certain assets, physical assets, are created because of it, right? Can I give you certain examples? Imagine Accenture company will bring in lot of money into India, set up a software company in India. Set up a software company in India. Another example, all of you heard of Volkswagen cars, VW cars. Volkswagen will bring a lot of money into India, invest in India, and set up a manufacturing facility. Set up a manufacturing facility. Now, in both of these cases, what we have done is, or what we have seen is, there is a creation of physical assets. And this is the example of foreign direct investment, FDI. Whereas in case of FPI, imagine you are residing outside India. I am a foreigner, right? A lot of institutions, mind you, right? Foreign investors are there, foreign institutions are there. They'll bring money in India and they'll purchase government securities. They will purchase, let's say, corporate bonds. They'll purchase, shares of, let's say, Infosys company, etc. So whenever the foreign dollars or foreign money will come into India, go into the financial assets like this, it is called as foreign portfolio investment. Any difficulty in understanding the basic difference between both of them, please do let me know. In one case, whenever you invest in physical assets, it is FDI. In the second case, whenever you invest in financial assets, it is called as FPI. But just to be very sure, right, what does the government of India use? What kind of, I'll come back to that slide, don't worry. What kind of a definition does the government of India use? This is the definition. And this definition was given to the government by Arvind Bayram Committee. Now, what is the definition? Simple. Whenever a foreign company will invest in the equity, please understand this carefully, right? Whenever you talk about FDI and FPI, the difference is equity. Equity meaning what? You invest and purchase ownership in a company. So have a look at this. Whenever a foreign company will bring in money into India and will invest in listed company, Now, what is this idea of a listed company? Listed company means a company whose shares are available in the market for trading purposes. Is it okay? right? A listed company is the company whose shares are available in the market for listed purposes. So whenever a foreign company will bring money into India, invest in the listed company and purchase, right, purchase up to 10% of the shares, purchase up to 10% of the ownership, it will be classified as FPI. And if this foreign company will come to India and purchase a 10% or more than 10% of ownership in a listed company, it will be classified as FDI, foreign direct investment. And if this foreign company will come to India, purchase ownership in unlisted company. Unlisted means what? The company's shares are not there in the market. Right? The company's shares are not there in the market for trading purposes. So if a foreign company brings in money, purchases ownership in an unlisted company, remember this, it will be classified as FDI, foreign direct investment. Any difficulty in the definition used by the government? Please do let me know. By heart this. I'll repeat it. By heart this particular definition. Again, I'll repeat it. In a listed company, a foreign company will bring money and purchase up to 10% of the shares, FPI. 10% or more than 10%, FDI. In an unlisted company, any amount of money that is brought in by a foreign company and they'll purchase the ownership in this unlisted company, it will be referred to as FDI, foreign direct investment. Any difficulty? Please do let me know. If there is no difficulty, I'll go back to the previous slide. This is the recommendation given by Arvind Mayram committee, and this is what Government of India uses. And some of you are asking, sir, why? Why should we classify all of it? Because, my dear, please understand what regulations are applicable to FDI. The regulations are different compared to what are applicable for FPI. For FPI, different guidelines are there. For FDI, different guidelines are there. So don't you want to find out what is the FDI, what is FPI, so that the right guidelines are applied to it. So this is the classic, right, or basically a technical definition used by the government. But apart from this, are there any other differences? Right, so here is the long form. Second, FDI, whenever they come to a country, they usually come to invest for a longer duration. They come with an intention of investing for longer duration. Because please understand, imagine you'll bring, let's say, $100 billion in India. Right, you want to invest and set up a manufacturing facility. How many of you think you will come invest only for 3 months? How many of you think you will come, you will invest only for 2 months? Only for 1 week? That is not the objective here. You want to invest, you want to manufacture, you want to sell, and you want to make profits. Right? That is a precise reason. Remember the logic here. FDI, whenever they enter into a country, the objective is they want to invest for longer duration. And we cannot attribute the same thing for FPIs. FPIs are never for a particular duration. They are basically in a country to earn profit. Some of the FPIs will invest for, let's say, 1 month. In 1 month, they will sell the shares, sell the bonds, earn certain profit. Some of them are there only for 1 day. Some of them want to invest for 2 years, etc., etc., etc. So when you compare between FDI and FPI, FPI is much more short term. It is much more volatile compared to FDI. And that is a precise reason FPI is also referred to as hot money. Remember this. FPI is also referred to as hot money. Why it is referred as a hot money? Today, they will have their investments in the Indian stock market. Tomorrow, they will withdraw their money, go to the US market. Possible? Of course, yes. Tomorrow, they will withdraw the amount of money from India, go to the US market. Day after tomorrow, they'll jump to, let's say, UK market. Then they will jump to the, let's say, European market, any other European market. So what will happen is, from time to time, what they do basically is they'll keep on shifting. I hope you understand this. Right? They'll keep on shifting from one market to another market. Any difficulty so far? Please do let me know. Any difficulty? Right? So that is comparatively, it is for shorter duration. My dear, please hold on, no? Right? Again, please hold on. Right, sir, what is difference between that, this? I'll discuss one by one. Have patience. Once I say this is the end of FD and FPI, then you can tell me, sir, you have skipped it. Right? I'm just going by step. Have patience always. Next one, in FDI, you invest in physical assets. In FPI, you invest in financial assets. Okay? In FDI, physical assets. In FPI, financial assets. Right? FDI is associated with multiplier effect because you're investing in infrastructure. Don't you think if you're going to invest in infrastructure, there is going to be a multiplier effect? That is, the overall impact on the GDP will be observed. So it is associated with the multiplier effect, and FPI generally increases the amount of money that is available in the market. How much money is there in the market? The amount of money that is available, right, will increase in the market. What market? Bond market. Right? Let's say stock market. So in these markets, how much money is there? Right? Basically, the amount of money will increase. Investments are done in order to earn profit. And of course, yes, any amount of investment that comes into India from the foreign market, that will come with the intention of making profits. Investments tend to be speculative here. Understand this carefully. What is speculative? Speculative means you expect a market to behave in a certain way. Is it okay? Right, I'll repeat it. You expect the market to behave in a certain way. That is your expectation. For example, you expect the shares of Adani company to fall tomorrow. That is speculation. I hope you understand the meaning of the term speculation. You believe that what has happened in the last couple of days will lead to further decrease in the market prices of Adani group of companies. That is speculation. Any guarantee it will happen? Right? Answer to my question. Any guarantee whether it will happen or not? Right? There is no guarantee. It could fall, it could again go up. Right? Because if you have seen very carefully in the last couple of weeks, for many of the days, the market prices of Adani group of companies, the shares have fallen. But in a certain number of days, again they have increased also. So speculation simply means you expect a market to behave in a particular way. That is basically the idea of a speculation. So in the stock market, there is speculation. In the bond market, there is speculation. Do you think foreign companies will invest thousands of crores in India based on speculation in the FDI? Right? I hope I can understand this. Right? Do you think the foreign companies, let's say a foreign company will bring in $100 billion, invest in India, set up a manufacturing facility based on speculation? No. Right? They have done their market research. They know that there is a demand for such goods in India, etc., etc. Only then they will bring money, invest in the manufacturing facility in India. So FDI, it is to earn profit, but FPI, investments are done for speculation purposes. Of course, they also want to earn profit. Okay? Comparatively, understand this, FPI, it is very easy to enter and exit. And why? That is the policy. You should allow FPI to enter easily and exit easily. But FDI, a lot of conditions are there. Right? Governments generally decide where you are allowed to invest in the form of FDI, how much you are allowed to invest, etc., etc. So entry barriers or ease of entry and exit, it is always higher for FPI, but much lower for FDI. Right? So these are some of the very important differences between FDI and FPI. Right? Any questions? Let me know. Are profits guaranteed in case of FDI? You tell me. Private sector. I hope you understand this. Right? This is sometimes that is actually surprising to me. It's a private sector investment. Do you think private sector investment always guarantees profits? Right? I hope you understand my statement here. You should not be asking these kind of questions. Right? Do you think private sector investment will always guarantee you profit? No, there is absolutely no guarantee, right? There is absolutely no guarantee for private sector investment. FDI is private sector investment. How can you say there is a guarantee? There is an intention to earn profit. It is done to earn profit. That is what I'm saying. Speculation is not there in FDI. FPI involves a speculation. Okay. Please give examples of both. My dear, where were you when I gave you examples of this? Tell me. Where were you when I gave you examples of Accenture company, right? Volkswagen, etc., etc. And already I've given you the examples. How multiplier effect is associated with the FDI. Right? Now, this is basically going back. You're basically regressive. You're not learning, you're regressing, right? Because this is a problem. You don't revise. You tell me, if I increase the investment in the Indian economy, will it lead to multiplier effect or not? Right? I hope you understand this, right? And again, you can't tell me that, sir, you're using the term multiplier effect first time in the classroom. If I'm using it for the first time, of course, I will explain it. You tell me, if you increase, right? When you increase the investment, right? When you increase the investment, don't you think that is going to increase multiplier effect? Of course, yes. And there is a question. Sir, why do you behave like this when we ask questions? My only concern is you are going 2 steps ahead, jumping 3 steps back. Simple. You are going 2 steps ahead, jumping 3 steps back. Right? Which means you are not revising. I hope you understand my concern. You are not revising. And because tell me, how many times have we discussed the concept of multiplier effect now? At least 5 to 6 times. At least 5 to 6 times. So my only concern is, again, I'll give you the definition. What is multiplier effect? If you increase the investment by 1 rupee, how much is the impact in the increase in the GDP? But my concern is you people are not revising. And my classes are going to get over. After that, what will you do? Okay, anyways. Okay, let's go forward. Right, so this is the basic difference between the concept of FDI and FPI. Okay, now let me enter into FDI. Definition already cleared. FDI refers to investment by a foreign company in purchasing ownership in a host country. Right, now some of you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by host country? Yesterday I've told you, whenever from the foreign market, investment will flow like this, right? For example, USA and India. A foreign company will bring money from USA, invest in India. USA will be referred to as home country. India will be referred to as host country. So whenever from the foreign country, that is from the home country, investment will flow into a host country, that is in physical assets. This is called as foreign direct investment. Now, in what way foreign direct investment will come to India? Through what routes FDI will come into India? There are 2 very important routes. Understand this. One is called as a direct route. Second one is called as an approval route. One is a direct route. Second one is approval route. Now, what do you mean by a direct and approval route? Let's try and understand this. Imagine there are 3 sectors, A, B and C. Imagine there are 3 sectors, A, B and C. Now, in case of sector A and B, government will say foreign investment is allowed. In sector A and B, foreign investment will be allowed. And in the sector C, foreign investment will not be allowed. Right? Let's go point by point. A and B, foreign investment is allowed. In C, foreign investment is not allowed. Now, what is the inference? What you need to understand? Point number 1. FDI policy is decided by government. Simple. FDI policy is decided by the Government of India. Government of India shall decide in which sector foreign direct investment is allowed, in which sector foreign direct investment is not allowed. And are there any sectors where FDI is not allowed? I'll give you example. Please by heart it and go forward. Don't start reading, doing a PhD on all those sectors, not at all needed for exams. There are certain sectors where government says FDI is not allowed, right? Agreed. Now come to these two sectors where FDI is allowed, where foreign direct investment is allowed. Now there are two ways through which foreign direct investment is allowed here. One is called as a direct route. One is called as a direct route and the second one is called as approval route. One is a direct route, another name for the direct route is automatic route. Second one is called as approval route. Now what do you mean by a direct or automatic route? Government of India says if a foreign company wants to invest in the sector A, if the foreign company wants to invest in sector A, they do not have to take any permission from the government. No approvals are required. The foreign company can bring in the money and invest in the sector. For example, let's say automobiles, manufacturing sector. So government of India says you don't have to take my permission. No approvals are needed. You want to invest in the manufacturing sector, bring money and invest it directly. Right? That is called as a direct route or automatic route. But on the other hand, look at the name here. Look at the name of the methodology. Approval route. It is also referred to as a government route. Approval route also referred to as government route. In case of the government route, right, you need to first take approval from the government, then you will be allowed to invest in the sector. Is it okay? First you need the approval, all right, you need the permission of the government, then you are allowed to bring your money and invest in the market. Right, so one is a direct route, second one is the approval route. Now I have a question to you people. Based on this, you tell me, Government of India will keep more sectors under the direct route or approval route? Just think of it. We have discussed all of these. Just you need to apply logic. Right? You will keep most of the routes under the direct or approval route. Right? Where do you think Government of India should keep or has kept most of the sectors? It is under the direct route. Some of you are still confused. I'll explain this. Most of the sectors are under the direct route. Very few are there under the approval route. When I discuss infrastructure, I'll give you examples, don't worry. Sir, why? I think that they should keep under approval route. Why? Why do you say that they are kept under the direct route? The reason is very simple. Government of India wants to attract a lot of investment in India. Simple. Government of India wants to attract a lot of investments into India. Now you tell me, under Make in India, under production linked incentive, under Startup India or Atmanirbhar Bharat, don't you think Government of India has the objective of attracting a lot of foreign investments? They want foreign investments. Why? Please understand the logic here. We have to invest a huge amount of money in order to become a developed country. Simple. Right? They want to attract a lot of investment so that investment will increase. India's GDP will become 5 trillion, will become a developed country. That's the whole idea. But do you think we have sufficient amount of money to take care of all the investment requirements in India? Right? I'll give a very simple example. Yesterday we have discussed National Infrastructure Pipeline. NIP, National Infrastructure Pipeline. Under National Infrastructure Pipeline, if you remember it, I've told you the center and state have to invest a certain amount of money. Out of 111 lakh crore rupees, a substantial amount will come from the center and the state. But apart from the center and state, you also require investment from the private. Now, if you make it very difficult to bring the money into India, difficult in the sense, you need to go to the government, take the approval, you need to submit all the documents, etc., etc. Don't you think that will hinder the inflow of money into India? That will hinder inflow of investments into India. So that's the reason, please understand this. most of the sectors today, they are kept under the direct route, right? And very few of them are kept under the approval route. Any difficulty in understanding this? Why we have most of them under the direct route? Right? This is the basic idea. Very few of the sectors are there under the approval route. And government simply says, right, there was one question, sir, what if there is a security issue? Of course, yes. Those sectors which are important for national security, those which are, right, which are considered to be very, very sensitive for the government, they will not keep it under the direct route. They will keep it under the approval route itself. Right? And I'll give you one more point here. Please understand this. Go back to the first point I've told you. I said the government will decide in which sector the foreign direct investment is allowed, in which sector FDI is not allowed. That's a point one. In addition to that, remember one more point. Can Government of India have a policy where we will only ensure, right, what type of investment will flow from which country and where it is allowed, where it is not allowed? I'll give you current affairs connection. Have patience. I'll repeat it. Can Government of India have a policy wherein whenever the investment will come from specific countries like this, we can say that, okay, you will not be allowed under the direct route, you will be allowed under the approval route. Can the government have such a policy? Answer is yes. I'll give you a current affairs point here. Please remember this. Government of India stated that any investment that is coming from neighboring countries, I repeat, Government of India, right, couple of years ago during pandemic, Government of India has announced that any investment that comes from neighboring countries, that is, let's say Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, China, Sri Lanka, etc., into India, that investment will go through only the approval route. It will not go through the direct route. That is, I'll take a simple example. Imagine car manufacturing. We allow FDI through direct route there. But Government of India says, if a Chinese company wants to invest in India in car manufacturing, even though car manufacturing is under the direct route, I will not allow it to go through direct route. I want, right, that investment to go through approval route. Right? Why? The reason is very simple. Government says there is an issue. There is a threat to national security here. That is the precise reason any foreign investment that comes into India from neighboring countries, it has to go through, right, only approval route, irrespective of whether the sector is under the direct or approval route. Right? Any issue, please do let me know. So this is the direct route and approval route. And why it has been done? In order to attract a lot of investments, the money, that is the investment, should come into India very smoothly. Very easily it should come, and right, we should be able to attract a lot of investments. That's a reason over a period of time, lot of the sectors are kept under the direct route. So you don't require permission. But please understand, there is one condition. I'm going to point number 2 under the direct route. There is one condition here. What is the condition? Whenever you will bring money into India, invest it in a sector under the direct route. In the next 30 days, you'll have to inform RBI. Right? Again, I'll repeat it. The condition related to direct route is that you have brought in dollars, you have invested in a sector because it is there under the direct route. But in the next 30 days, after investing, after bringing in the money, in the next 30 days, you will have to inform Reserve Bank of India. Within a month, the foreign company will have to intimate RBI. Right? So government will decide which sectors will be kept under the direct route. These are certain important points regarding the concept of direct route. What about approval route? What about the government route here? Again, within the approval route, there are two systems. Within the approval route, there are two systems. One, whenever the foreign company wants to invest up to 5,000 crore rupees, whenever the foreign company wants to invest up to 5,000 crore and the foreign company wants to invest more than 5,000 crore rupees. So if you want to invest up to 5,000, up to means what? less than 5,000 crore. You will have to approach, right, basically the respective ministry. Right? What do you mean by that? There is one portal. The government of India has set up one portal, and the name of the portal is Foreign Investment Facilitation Portal. Earlier we had a different system. If your book says the system is different, that is an old book, right? They have not updated it. Please update it. Earlier we had an authority by the name of FIPB, Foreign Investment Promotion Board. The government of India has disbanded. It has basically discontinued the authority, and we have one more portal now, Foreign Investment Facilitation Portal, FIFP. Now you are a foreign investor. This is a sector you want to invest. Direct entry is not there. You'll have to take permission. But you want to invest, let's say 4,000 crore rupees. What is the process? Process is you go to the portal and you know the respective ministry under which the sector will fall. You apply for approvals. You will apply for all the approvals that are required. Now, what if you want to invest more than 5,000 crores? You will basically, right, have to get the approvals from the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. CCA stands for Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Then these are the different ways through which FDI will come into Indian market. Anybody has a doubt? Please do let me know. Anybody has a doubt regarding what we have discussed in the slide? Right? It's a simple concept. Don't complicate it. You will bring FDI, invest in physical assets. But how? How are you allowed to come into India? Two methods. One, no approvals are required. You directly bring in money and invest in the sector. Second, you are allowed to bring in money, but only after getting the approval of the government. And within this, there are two methods. If you are investing up to 5,000 crore, there is a portal. Log on to the portal, apply. And second, in the second case, you want more than 5,000 crore to be invested in India, you will get the approval from the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. This is basically the concept. Any doubts here? Right, most of you have gone dormant, right? Slept already. Right, so any doubts? Can I go forward here? Shall I go to the next one? Okay. Now, where is FDI not allowed? Right, these are the sectors where FDI is allowed. I've just given you some examples. And please do not by heart this list. Most of the sectors FDI is allowed today. I hope you understand. Most of the sectors FDI is allowed. Right, so do not by heart the list. Very common ones, right, which is very, very common. For example, all of you will watch TV, broadcasting, FDI is allowed. All of you have flown or you have used aeroplane for transportation purposes, it is allowed. All of you speak over the mobile phone, telecom sector, it is allowed. So these are the sectors where FDI is allowed. And these are the sectors where FDI is not allowed. Right? These are important for security purposes. Right? These government of India wants to prohibit because there could be an impact on the common man, such as gambling. In gambling, FDI is not allowed because gambling is a very, 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 very sensitive sector. Very sensitive sector. Okay. So these are some of the sectors where FDI is prohibited and these where FDI is allowed. Can I go to the next one? Pension sector means what? Pension sector means there are various companies, institutions, which will offer pension products to you. Right? Pension means what? After you hit 60 years, you will get certain returns after that. That is the basic idea for pension. So Government of India also runs pension programs. You must have heard of NPS, National Pension Scheme. But what if apart from that, you want to be enrolled in private sector pension plans? Pension companies are there. Why FDI is needed? My dear, FDI is required because the amount of money that we need to spend to develop infrastructure, it's very high. We don't have so much amount of money. Simple. Right? Why is FDI needed? Because we want to invest money. That's it. Right? We want a lot of money for construction of airports, for providing, let's say, telecom services, for construction of roads, for construction of various infrastructure projects. We need money, and we do not have so much amount of money in the domestic market, so we'll bring it from the foreign market. That's a basic idea. Okay. Next, what are the merits? What are the merits? What are the advantages associated with FDI? First one, whenever foreign companies will come into India, they will bring money into India, financial resources. They'll bring technical resources, that is latest or good technology. They will also bring in managerial experience. Right? So first one is, it will bring a lot of resources into India. Second one, it will promote competition. It will promote competition in the Indian market. Best example for this is, right, the earlier Ola versus Uber. Remember this example, you will automatically understand it. Ola versus Uber, or for that matter, Flipkart versus Amazon. Flipkart versus Amazon. Right, today even Flipkart is FDI. I hope you have read the newspapers. Flipkart has been purchased by an American company, Walmart. Even that is FDI now. Right, but again, earlier, Ola versus Uber. Don't you think the competition between Ola versus Uber, right? The competition was very high. Why? Why the competition was very high? There is a domestic company and a foreign company has entered into India. Competition automatically goes up. Right? So it will always promote competition. Rather than protecting the domestic companies, we open up the market, foreign companies will come into India. Now the competition will automatically increase. Third, it will improve balance of trade. Apply schemes such as PLI, Make in India, you will connect it. What we are expecting is foreign companies will come to India, will manufacture the products in India. Right? I'll give you a current affairs example. Apple products. Right? There's a company called as Apple, manufactures tablets, manufactures computers, laptops, mobile phones, etc. Until couple of years ago, all the products of Apple, we used to import it. Right? I hope you understand this. All the products of Apple, we used to import it. Now have a look at this. Rather than importing, the Apple company through its various companies is manufacturing Apple products in India. Now tell me, if they start manufacturing Apple products in India, one, will our imports go down? Right? Will the requirement of Apple imports go down? Of course, yes. That is first point. Second, rather than importing, now we can manufacture and start exporting it to international market. Right? Rather than importing the Apple products now, we might manufacture it and start exporting it to international market. Right? So it will improve balance of trade. It will basically promote balance of trade. That is, rather than having higher imports, import dependence will come down. Manufacturing might take place in India, and we will start promoting exports to rest of the world. Right? So balance of trade will be improving. It will generate employment. And of course, yes. Couple of days ago, there was this article in the newspapers regarding how many jobs Apple company has generated in India. Right? I hope I understand. Should you buy hard the data? Absolutely no. But yes, when foreign companies will come into India, they will invest and they will create a lot of job opportunities. So they will generate a lot of employment. It will lead to increased exports from India. And as a result of this, the trade relation between India and the rest of the world will increase. That is one more outcome or the advantage associated with foreign direct investment. Any difficulty in any one of these points, please do let me know. Right? Any difficulty in any of these particular points? Most of the equipments in atomic sector is imported, then why FDI is now allowed? My dear, in case of atomic energy, did I say that government is allowing FDI? Right? Are we allowing FDI in that? Argument is, whatever equipment is required, let's say atomic reactor, we'll simply import it. We'll simply purchase it. Right? So that is the whole idea. That is what Government of India is doing. We are basically purchasing all the atomic reactors that we require. Right? That is the reason. we have a tie-up with, let's say, American companies. We have a tie-up with Russian companies, right? We have a tie-up with France, Britain, where the companies from their different countries will come into India and basically develop all of this. FDIs ultimately leads to supply of money in domestic market and same effect if government borrow from RBI and create infrastructure. How? How? FDIs ultimately leads to supply of money in domestic market and same effect if government borrows from RBI and create infrastructure. My dear, from the private sector, money coming is different than government of India spending money. You are equating apples with oranges. How both are one and the same? If government of India is borrowing money from RBI, do you guarantee that it will be used for infrastructure? Where has the government of India told you that? No, government might borrow and they might use it for social welfare. That will lead to inflationary trend. But on the other hand, FDI doesn't use money for welfare. FDI uses money for profit. They will invest, they want profit. Okay, so again, right, I generally see that you're trying to compare two different things. Both are different. Okay, so these are the merits. These are the advantages which are associated with foreign direct investment. Okay, now, are there any concerns? Right? Are there any problems related to the inflow of FDI? Of course, yes, there will be problems. Let's go one by one. First one, if you want to attract FDI, now the government of India has to make certain changes in the policies so that foreign companies will invest in India. I'll connect it to current affairs. You will agree with me on this. Earlier, the corporate tax rate was 30%. Don't you think government of India gave an option of lower corporate tax rate of 22% in order to attract FDI? Any issue here? One of the reasons why government of India reduced the corporate tax rate, gave an option of 22% of corporate tax rate, is to attract FDI itself. Now that is what I am trying to tell you in the first statement. That is, in order to attract FDI, government will have to change their policies. It's basically against the concept of sovereignty, right? Very often in polity you will come across the term sovereignty. What do you mean by sovereignty? Sovereignty means the government will decide for country. External factors will not be a factor, right? That is, any other country will not be dictating terms to another country. What is required for India, government of India will decide it. Right? That is the basic idea of sovereignty. We will have the power. We will take the decisions. Nobody else can take the decision for us. But you tell me, in order to attract the foreign direct investment, don't you think government of India now will have to change policies? Because foreign companies will not come to your country if the policies are against them. Right? If the policies of the government of India are not in favor of the private sector company, do you think private sector company, especially foreign companies, will come to India? In what world will they do that? Absolutely no. So one, government will have to keep on changing their policies. Right? That is, government without protecting their interest, now they will have to protect the interest of the companies. Sir, what do you mean by protecting their interest? When government will reduce the corporate tax rate from 30% to 22%, will it not reduce the amount of taxes that they are collecting? Will it not have an impact on the amount of taxes that they are collecting? Of course, yes. So first problem or the first demerit regarding the FDI is the government will have to change their policies, and it will affect the government revenues. It will affect various policies or let's say viewpoints of the government. Doesn't matter. You want to attract it, you will have to make changes. Second, it may promote unhealthy competition. Underline the term may. Right? There is no guarantee, but most of the times it will happen. Most of the times it will happen. I'll give you a simple example. Yesterday I was telling you about this. E-commerce companies. E-commerce companies. Right? Do you remember the concept of deep discounting? What is this idea of a deep discounting? The e-commerce companies will sell the products at such low prices. They will sell the products at such a huge discounted level that other companies will not be able to compete with them. And now, don't you think this is a promotion of unhealthy competition? Let me know, right? If you disagree, if you have a different idea, please do let me know, right? Ultimately, you should be able to understand what I'm trying to convey here, right? So the argument is many of these e-commerce companies, because they want to have a dominant position in the market, they want to wipe away competitors, push the competitors away in the business. They will provide such big discounts, nobody else will be able to compete with them. As a result of this, we as customers will end up purchasing the products from this e-commerce company. Other companies, right, that is, let's say traditional companies, traditional stores, they will not be able to compete. They will be forced to shut down, right? That is basically one of the concern here. It may promote unhealthy competition in the market. And best example for this is Amazon, Flipkart in India, right? Amazon and Flipkart in case of India, right? Various trading platforms, or let's say various e-commerce companies have used this. And as a result of this, other companies have incurred losses. Now they have approached Government of India. They are saying these companies are providing very big discounts, right? We are not able to do that. And you might be wondering, sir, why? Why is that these companies are providing discounts and right, others are not able to do that? Reason is simple. The business models are different. The business model is different for both of them. For example, imagine I have a shop. Which means one, I will have to pay rent on the shop. Now I will bring the bottle and I will sell the bottle, right, keeping that in the shop, which means again I have employees. I will have to pay salaries for the employees, etc., etc., etc. This is how the brick and mortar stores actually work. But on the other hand, what is Amazon doing? Amazon basically has a huge warehouse, right? They have stored all of this. Cost of storage is very high. They have purchased in bulk, right? Very, very cheaper. Now they are able to provide huge amount of a discount because of that. So that is the precise reason, right? It might promote unhealthy competition in the market. Next, may also lead to regional disparities. Already the concern in case of India is some of the areas within India are very well developed. Some regions are not very well developed. Now in this context, what will happen is, what if I say that most of the FDI that comes into India will enter into states such as Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, etc. And there is a reason. Why do they enter into these states? Because these states already have very good infrastructure. The government in these states helps them in getting access to, let's say, easy land acquisition. Right? The laws in these states of the state government are much more easier. So as a result of this, what will happen? More and more FDI will enter into these states. What about other states? Other states will lag behind. I'm not saying nothing will go to other states. Other states will lag behind. And more investment going into some states means obviously GDP of these states would increase. The disparity which is already existing will also widen like this. So regional disparities will widen because of FDI. And finally, the tax avoidance. The concerns regarding tax avoidance. Lot of these companies, by practicing transfer pricing practice, right? They have a practice called as a transfer pricing practice. They will be avoiding lot of these taxes to Government of India, right? So these are some of the demerits. These are some of the issues regarding foreign direct investment. Any doubts here? Any doubts in the slide? Can I go to the next one? Nobody wants to answer. Great. Okay, so what are the other points regarding FDI? What are the other points? Every now and then keep typing so that I also know you are not sleeping, but more importantly, you know that you are not sleeping. Okay, now what are the other important points regarding FDI? Just factual information. One, whenever countries are ranked, in terms of accepting FDI, in terms of inflow of FDI, India is generally in the top 10. India is generally in the top 10, right? That is basically, right, one fact, right? In the top 10, generally India's ranking will be 8th rank, 9th rank within the top 10. And within that list, you will have China, USA in the top. China and USA will be in the top. India will be somewhere around 8th or 9th. Next one, post 2000, it is the services sector which has attracted highest amount of foreign direct investment. Right, out of all the amount of FDI that has come into India, highest amount of right, the FDI has gone into services sector. And the third one, from which countries do we receive the FDI? Right, what are the major countries, from where do we receive the FDI? We receive FDI from Singapore, we receive FDI from Mauritius, etc. These are the two countries generally at the top of the sourcing countries. That is the countries from where FDI will come into India. Right, so these are certain important points. Now have a look at this. I just want to add certain important other initiatives, or let's say certain other concepts related to FDI. One is called as double taxation avoidance agreement. Very often this will be there in the newspaper. Double taxation avoidance agreement, DTAA, double taxation avoidance agreement. Now what is this double taxation avoidance agreement? Let me explain to you. Imagine there is country A and there is country B, two countries. Now a company in country A will bring the investment and invest in the country B, second country. And let's say they will earn certain profit, they will make certain revenues. Now the question arises, on this revenue that has been generated, on this revenue which has been generated here, should the government of country A impose and collect the tax, or should the government of country B impose and collect the tax? Because both of them have their own arguments. Government of A will say, the company is located in USA, or let's say in our country. So because it is located here, any revenue they are generating outside USA or outside A, I will impose and collect a tax on it. Then country B will also say, because this company is generating revenue in our country, on that revenue, I will impose and collect a tax. Now the problem is, if both of these governments impose and collect a tax on the same revenue, this is called as a double taxation. Is it okay? Whenever both of these governments impose and collect a tax on the same revenue, it is called as a double taxation. And that will prohibit what? That will prohibit investment. Why will a company pay taxes two times on the same revenue in two different countries? Right? It will start prohibiting, right, the investment flow from one country to another country. It will have a huge impact on, let's say, infrastructure development in a country, etc., etc., etc. That is a precise reason. What generally happens is, both of these governments, both A and B will come together and they will sign agreement. This is called as double taxation avoidance agreement, DTAA. Double taxation avoidance agreement. And I'll give you current affairs connection here. Double taxation avoidance agreement was there in the newspaper when India-Australia trade deal was being discussed. India-Australia trade deal was being discussed, so DTAA was there in the newspapers. Now what happens when the countries will sign DTAA? Simple. One country will say, I will impose taxes on these revenues, and another country will choose other revenues and decide to impose taxes. I'll give you one example, follow this carefully. Imagine here is a software company. One example, here is a software company. This software company will supply services to country B and generate revenues from country B. One example. Second example, here is, let's say, an insurance company. This insurance company has invested money in the stock market in the second country. Right? So I hope you understand. On one side, there is a capital gains. In one of the examples, there is a capital gains. And in another example, there is a revenue generation because services are provided. If an agreement is signed, right, they might decide, generally, understand this, they might decide that some of these types of, right, let's say revenues, government of A will impose and collect taxes. And some of the other types of revenues that the government of country B will impose and collect taxes. And when such agreement is signed, what is the impact of it? Whenever such agreements are signed, what is the impact of it? Impact is one, there is clarity now. In the economy now, there is a full clarity. What is the clarity? If you invest in India and you are basically investing in the stock market, now you know that, okay, whatever capital gains you are earning, it is the government of India which is going to impose a tax on it. And imagine you're a software company, you're selling software to India now. You know that this software on the revenue that you have generated, it is, let's say, the government of USA which will impose and collect the taxes. So that will provide a lot of clarity. It will provide a lot of clarity in the economy as to which is the appropriate authority to impose and collect taxes. That is one. Second, whenever there is a clarity like this, whenever there is a clarity over taxation, we will expect a lot of FDI to flow from one country to another country. We expect a lot of FDI or investments to flow from one country to another country. This agreement is referred to as a double taxation avoidance agreement. Any difficulty in this? Please do let me know. Any difficulty in understanding the concept of double taxation avoidance agreement? Please do let me know. Now, before going forward, I just want to add one more point related to DTEA. Generally, when you discuss DTEA, there is something called as limitation of benefits clause. Limitation of benefits clause. Limitation of benefits clause. LOP. Right? LOB. Limitation of benefits clause. Now, what is this limitation of benefits clause? I'll give a very simple example. I'll come back to this. Just understand this carefully. Imagine this is USA and this is India. Right, let's start. Imagine this is USA and this is India. Now, investments, let's say in the stock market, will flow from USA to India. And as per the double taxation avoidance agreement, it is the government of USA which will impose taxes on this and collect the income tax. Collect the tax. Now, imagine the tax rate that government of USA will impose is 20%, right? That is capital gains tax. This is step one. Now, second step, there is one more country, let's say Mauritius. There is one more country, Mauritius. Now, rather than investing directly from USA to India like this, follow this. Rather than investing directly from USA to India like this, you will bring your money from USA to Mauritius, set up a company in Mauritius, and now from Mauritius, you will make your investment in the Indian stock market. You will ask me why? Have patience, I'll come to that also. And many of you will ask me, sir, why? You're moving from one country to another country. Why? Have patience. So if you directly invest from USA to India, let's say 20% tax on it. But rather than that, what you will do? You will bring your money from USA to Mauritius. You will set up, let's say, an investment fund, investment company in Mauritius. And from the Mauritius, you will invest in the Indian market. Now you will make certain amount of capital gains. Now, why are you doing it? Simple. You will bring your investment from USA to Mauritius because imagine there is a DTAA between USA and Mauritius and it is allowed. You are allowed to bring the investment like this. And second, you will make an investment from Mauritius to India because there is an agreement between Mauritius as well as India, and as per that DTAA, it is the government of Mauritius which will impose capital gains tax. Which will impose capital gains tax. And right, understand this carefully. The long-term capital gains tax in Mauritius is 0%. The long-term capital gains tax in Mauritius is 0%. Now you tell me, what does make sense to you as a taxpayer? Not as the government. Understand my statement. What does make sense to you as a taxpayer? Making investment directly from the USA market to Indian market, or second system where you will bring your investment from USA to Mauritius and then use these investments to earn capital gains tax in India. You tell me, what makes sense to you, one or two? Right, where as a taxpayer you are going to get maximum benefit? Right, second one. All of you will agree? Right? Anybody has a problem with this? Right? He is the second one. Arey Baba. Somebody suddenly said one. Right? Somebody suddenly said one. Why, my dear? Why, as a taxpayer? Then, as a taxpayer, you want to pay more taxes to government. Just think of like this. As a taxpayer, you want to pay more taxes to government. Right? Obviously no. If you say yes, please give me your address. I'll tell income tax officials today. Right? As a taxpayer, you want to pay as much less amount of taxes to government. Is it okay? Right? As much less taxes as possible. And that is a precise reason. Understand the logic here. That is a precise reason. Why do you think we have a concept of safe havens? Why do you think we have a concept of safe havens? Right? What is this idea for safe haven? Taxation. We have discussed this in the taxation. Safe haven is a tax jurisdiction where the tax rates are negligible or 0%. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Right? What is a safe haven? Safe havens are those tax jurisdictions, those countries where the tax rate is negligible or 0%. So you as a taxpayer, you prefer to pay a tax of 20%, is it? Compared to, let's say, 0% capital gains tax. Right? So obviously, I hope you understand, obviously what will happen as a result of this, what you as an investor will do is, you will route your money, you route your investment from USA, right, first to Mauritius, and now from Mauritius to India. And because there is an agreement between India and Mauritius, as per which, let's say, Mauritius will collect the taxes and the tax rate is 0%, you will not pay taxes, right? In Mauritius, you will pay 0 rupees there, right? Or $0 to the Mauritius government. That is the reason these kind of routes are used by investors. Right? That's the reason these kind of routes are used by investors. And please understand this. From USA to Mauritius, Mauritius to India, the route that I've explained now, this is basically one methodology used by investors to avoid taxation. Simple, right? They want to avoid taxation altogether. That is a precise reason they will use these kind of methodologies. Any problem with this? They will use it, right? And there are n number of companies which actually do it. N number of companies, not just 1, 2, 3, many companies are accused of doing the same thing. And this is a very simple example I've given. Very simple example I've given, right? And remember, this is called as a treaty shopping. The technical term is referred to as treaty shopping. This methodology that I've explained just now, it is referred to as a treaty shopping. That is, you want to find out a treaty. What is the treaty I'm talking about? Double taxation avoidance agreement. You want to find out an agreement wherein you will get the maximum benefit. Wherein you will get the maximum benefit, that is, you will end up paying negligible amount of a tax or 0 rupee tax. Right? So this is called as a treaty shopping. Okay? In this certificate of origin, my dear, certificate of origin is applicable to goods. Is it a good? Certificate of origin, right? That is, rules of origin is applicable to goods trade. This is not goods trade. Mauritius to USA money transfers, they charge tax. If it is a legal method, of course, yes. But this treaty shopping is also used for money laundering purposes. This is also used for money laundering purposes. This is also used for money laundering purposes. Please be very careful. Okay? Repeat, it is confusing. My dear, from USA, you will bring your money to Mauritius. In Mauritius, you will set up a company and that company will invest in India. Is this clear? Now, why? Why are you doing it? India and Mauritius, let's say, have a double tax avoidance agreement. And as per this double tax avoidance agreement, it is the government of Mauritius which will impose and collect capital gains tax from you. And imagine you've invested for 2 years in India, or let's say 3 years in India, which is basically long-term capital gains tax. So on this long-term capital gains tax, who is going to impose and collect a tax? It is the Mauritius government. And how much is the tax imposed and collected by the Mauritius government? 0%. So you are investing in India, you are making profits, that is the capital gains, but you are not paying any taxes. That is right, basically the usage of the double taxation avoidance agreement. Okay. So, but when investment move from USA to Mauritius, what if USA taxes? You are assuming it. It doesn't impose like that. And trust me, again, I'm actually surprised by the fact when I say it is happening. I hope you understand my statement. It is actually happening. Right? I'll add one more point here. This is a treaty shopping. There is one more concept called as round tripping. And let me see how many of you can connect it to current affairs. Round tripping. What is this idea for round tripping? Have a look at this. Imagine this is Indian market and there's a person X who has a lot of money. Let's say black money. Now this particular person can invest directly in the market. But the concern is, if X will directly invest in the market like this, if X will directly invest in the market, there could be, right, IT search. Income tax officials can ask, what is the source of it? Please tell me the source, etc. Now, what the investor will do is, what this person X will do is, they will launder the money. They will launder the money. Money laundering will be used, and this money will be taken to, let's say, Mauritius. This money will be taken to Mauritius. And in Mauritius, let's say an institutional company is set up. An institution is set up. And from this institution, now the investment will be made in India. The investments will be made in India. Right? And now, this is called as round tripping. I hope you understand the term round trip. Any difficulty in understanding the term round trip? Forget about this. Tell me, right? General idea. Round trip. Any difficulty? You will start from a point, go to some other area, come back to the same point. That is round trip. What is happening here in round tripping? It is India from where the investment is arising, originating, and it is again India where the investment is coming back. Hence, this is called as a round tripping. And are companies doing it? Of course, yes. Can I connect it to current affairs? How many of you have read about Adani issue? Again, don't write a company Adani in the exam. How many of you read about Adani issue? One of the concerns that has been raised by Hindenburg is the issue of round tripping itself. I hope you understand. One of the issues that they have raised is the issue of round tripping itself. Right? So argument is simple here. Argument is simple. From India, the money will originate. It will go to, let's say, Mauritius. Again, sir, only Mauritius always? Absolutely no. I hope you understand. Only Mauritius? Absolutely no. You can take it to, let's say, first Mauritius. Then you will take it to, let's say, British Virgin Islands. From there, you will take it to Panama. From Panama, you will bring to, let's say, Singapore. From Singapore, you will bring it to India. Right? This process is called as layering. Remember this. This process is referred to as layering. That is, from one tax haven to another tax haven, you will keep on moving the funds. Right? There will be so many transactions that will be conducted. Right? This is referred as layering. Why do they do that? Why do you go for layering like this? Reason is tax officials will find it very difficult to find out. I hope you understand this. Tax officials will find it very difficult to find out. Right? For example, you go to, let's say, Panama. You will ask, right, give me information about this person. He has conducted transaction. Do you think Panama authorities will simply give you that information? Until very recently, Switzerland did not share their information. Now, because there is an agreement with Switzerland, they are sharing the information with India. So, argument is simple here, right? Have a look at this. This can be used to convert black money into white money. This is example that I've just told you now, right? The money will be brought into India. They will invest in India, earn gains, make capital gains, but they will end up paying 0 rupees to government of India, 0 rupees to Mauritius government. So they are earning profits. They are making the profits without paying any taxes. Money laundering, they can use it for money laundering purposes. Done? Right, so this is the idea for round tripping and treaty shopping. Now, some of you are trying to do PhD here. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Right, you don't have to learn how they do layering. Then basically means you're interested in something else. Right, any difficulty, please do let me know. Right, so one is called as a treaty shopping, where the funds will come from one country but will be invested in another country. Round tripping, funds will start from the country and again come back to the same country. That is the basic idea for treaty shopping and round tripping. Okay, shall I go to the next one? Shall I go to the next one? Now, some of you are asking, sir, why will Mauritius allow it? Why will USA allow it? There is no question of allowing it. That is how the agreements are signed. For example, tomorrow, imagine you have, let's say, $100. You want to invest in the USA stock market. Right? Can USA government do anything regarding that? Of course, no. You are allowed to invest in the USA stock market. That is the agreement that the countries have kept on signing with each other. Right? The companies will open offshore accounts. Companies will open, right, branches in different countries. Definitely allowed. That is how the global economy works. Right? It is perfectly allowed. But the whole idea is, right, they generally use a loophole in the system. It's a loophole. We know there is a loophole like this. They will use the loophole to reduce their tax liability. Okay, so one is treaty shopping, and the second one is, right, the idea for round tripping. Okay, now coming to the point here, there is a term called as a limitation of benefits clause, LOB clause, limitation of benefits clause. What is this idea of a limitation of benefits clause? Have a look at this. You are bringing funds either from India or from USA, anywhere. You are bringing the funds into Mauritius, and from Mauritius, you will invest to India. Now, what is the advantage for Mauritius? I understand. What is the advantage? Mauritius, in fact, by imposing 0% tax rate, is losing tax revenue. So, what is the advantage for Mauritius? Why would they actually allow it to happen? Because generally, whenever you want to enjoy this capital gains tax of 0% like this, they will have certain conditions. Simple. They will have certain conditions. What kind of condition? They will say that your office should be there in Mauritius. In your office, so many people should have been employed. Your total amount of investment that has happened in Mauritius should be at least this much. Right? I hope you understand. This is called as a limitation of benefits clause. I'll give a very simple example. Let's say hypothetically. And again, don't by heart the conditions here. In the sense, the LOB between India and Mauritius will be different. LOB between USA and Mauritius will be different. LOB between Mauritius and Germany will be different. But let's take a simple example. Imagine you have a lot of money. You want to route those investments from Mauritius to India, and you want to pay 0 rupees capital gains tax in Mauritius. Right? They will say, okay, you are allowed to do that. But Mauritius says the minimum number of employees which are working in your company in Mauritius have to be, let's say, 100 people. In the last 1 year, you want to pay 0 rupees, you want to pay 0% long-term capital gains tax, then prove to me that in the last 1 year in Mauritius, in your company at least 100 people have worked. If you can prove that, only then I will allow you to pay a capital gains tax of 0%. If you can't pay, if you can't prove that, if you had, let's say, 90 people, if you had 50 people, etc., then this 0% is not applicable. Whatever is the normal rate, let's say 15%, 10% normal rate, that is the rate of tax that is applicable. That is basically referred to as limitation of benefits clause. Right? Any difficulty in understanding all the 3 points? Right? Let me know. So one is a limitation of benefits clause. They can use those. Right? One is a round tripping, and the third one is treaty shopping. In fact, the round tripping was there in the newspaper related to Adani Enterprises. Right? It is said, again it is said, or I'll be very careful here, it is alleged. It is alleged. It is alleged that one of the relatives of Mr. Gautam Adani, and you don't have to write the story in exams, right? Exams, you don't require story. It is alleged that one of the relatives, that is brother of Mr. Gautam Adani, has a lot of these institutions, financial institutions in other countries, and they generally route their investments, right? They route their investment into Indian market, right? And I'll give you a basic idea here, right? Although it is not there in the book, etc., but understand this carefully. Whenever you talk about stock market, right? How many have read today's Hindu? Let me check. Right? Every time you keep on asking questions to me, now I am asking questions to you. How many of you have read today's Hindu? Anybody who says, sir, I've read? Great. In that particular newspaper, there is one article regarding indices. How many of you have read it? In today's Hindu, there was one article regarding indices. That is why SEBI, right? Why these market regulators are focused about indexes, right? Why they are why they are concerned about index providers. There is an article, please read that. Right? Please read that. It is relevant for services, that is services examination. Now follow this carefully. Whenever you talk about, let's say, NSE, National Stock Exchange, or BSE, right, you will come across a term called as Sensex. Have you heard of this? Sensex. Sensex is a type of an index itself. And in context of NSE, it is called as Nifty 50. It is called as Nifty 50. Right? Nifty Junior is there, Nifty 50 is there. There are a lot of indices. So NSE will publish one index here. BSE will also publish one more index. That is that BSE Sensex. But how it is calculated, follow this carefully. Not there in the book, but relevant for current affairs. Suddenly UPSC can pick it up. Whenever a company has issued shares, we'll simply call this as, we will use this number of shares to calculate a parameter called as market capitalization. We will use the number of shares issued by the company to calculate something called as market capitalization. And market capitalization is relevant. It is important. Why? Higher the market capitalization simply means the size of this company is very, very large. Size of the company is very big. And how do we calculate market capitalization? Simple. Imagine a company has issued 100 shares and per share today in the market, it is 150 rupees. Per share in the market, the price is 150. So what will be the market capitalization of the company? It will be 15,000 rupees. Now, can I say that market prices of the shares will keep on varying? I hope you understand the logic here. The market prices of the shares will keep on varying. Now, can I conclude by saying that market capitalization of the company will also keep on varying? And market capitalization will also keep on varying. So this is point number 1. Remember this. Point number 2, right? There is a concept called as free float. Important. There is a concept called as free float, right? What is this idea of a free float? A company has issued, let's say, 100 shares, but all the 100 shares are not there in the market for trading purposes. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Imagine a company has issued 100 shares. Total shares they have issued is 100. all the 100 shares are not there in the market for trading purposes. Right, sir, what do you mean by that? Let's take a simple example. Adani company itself. Why I want to connect it to current affairs? The owner of the company, that is Mr. Gautam Adani, and the relatives of Gautam Adani have a huge amount of ownership in the Adani group of companies. And do you think Mr. Gautam Adani will keep on selling the shares of Adani companies in the market? Just understand this. Do you think Mr. Gautam Adani will start selling the shares of Adani company in the market? And obviously answer is no. Any problem in this? Obviously answer is no. Right, now if you ask me, sir, why? Right, what will happen if they sell it in the market? My dear, your own company, you are the CEO, you are basically the chairman of it, and you are selling the shares of that company in the market. What does it indicate? What does it actually indicate? That's a very dangerous signal. Very dangerous signal. So understand the logic here. As per SEBI norms, whenever any company will go for an IPO, 25% of the shares has to be issued to the market. 25%, minimum 25%. Right? For example, imagine the company has 100 shares. What does it mean? Out of 100 shares, at least 25 shares should be sold in the market, which also means the remaining 75 shares can be owned by the owners of the company. Any difficulty? Right? If you conduct an IPO, at least 25% you will have to sell in the market. Remaining 75% you can own it. That is a precise reason. Look at, right, let's say Adani Group of Enterprises, Ambani Enterprises, or Tata's, etc. You will generally observe one thing. The owners, right, share in the total company will be very, very high. The share of ownership by the owners will be very, very high, right? Because they will sell certain amount, minimum number of shares, conduct an IPO, but right, collect huge amount of money from the market. Now, why this is irrelevant? Next point is important here. Out of 100 shares, if owners are having 75 shares and only 25 shares are available in the market, this 25 share is called as a free float. Is it okay? This 25 shares is referred to as free float of the company. And have a look at the next point here. What if the demand for these shares increases? Simple. What if the demand for these shares increases? You tell me what will happen. If the demand for these shares increases, market price per share will increase. And when the market price per share increases, you tell me what will happen to market capitalization. Any problem in connecting the dots? Any problem? Please do let me know. All these are there in the current affairs. Do not search for these in the books. Right? So again, basic idea is SEBI says whenever a company conducts IPO, at least 25% you will have to sell it to the public. What does it mean? Out of 100, if the owner keeps 75 and they will not sell it, they will not trade it, only 25 shares are issued in the market, only these are available for trading. Now, what if the demand for these shares increase? If the demand for these shares increases, basically means market price of the shares increase. And if the market price of the share increases, market capitalization of the company automatically increases. So what is the relevance of all of this, right, with Adani's? Simple. This is what the Hindenburg report says. The Adani group of companies, in all of them, more than 70% is with the owners. More than 70%. Okay, am I audible as well as visible? Am I audible as well as visible? Please do let me know. Because two of you said audio has stopped. Okay, let's start. So have a look at this. The argument here is, that is the allegation that has been levied by the Hindenburg report is that what has happened here is the Adani group of enterprises, in most of them, more than 70% is there with the owners. More than 70% is there with the owners. Point number one. Point number two, which means the free float in the market is lesser. Is it okay? Free float in the market is lesser. Third, right, through the concept of round tripping, what has been done is, allegation by the way, the brother of Mr. Gautam Adani has set up a lot of institutions outside India, and this money has been routed back to India. And for what purpose the money is being utilized now? To purchase the shares of Adani Enterprises. To purchase the shares of Adani Enterprises. Now you will ask me, sir, they could have purchased directly. No. My dear, Adani's brother, don't you think, right, the whole enterprises or the whole family of Adani should not be owning more than 75%. Now what has happened? The allegation is that this foreign entity has brought in dollars into India, has started purchasing the shares of Adani Enterprises in the market, which are there in the market, free float wala. Now when they started purchasing, the demand for Adani companies shares has increased. And when the demand for the Adani group of company shares increases, the market price will increase. And when the market price will increase, what do you think will happen to market capitalization? The market capitalization automatically increases. Now some of you will ask me, what is the use of it, sir? Right? What is the use of it? Simple, my dear. I have a company. I own 70% in that company. And the value of this company in the market is not 100 crore. That was there last week. It was 100 crore last week. But because of this manipulation, it has increased to 150 crore. Now tell me, don't you think it becomes very easy for me to borrow from the market? Is the logic okay? Don't you think it becomes very easy for me to show the valuation of the company, borrow from the market? Who is not ready to invest in Adani group of companies, you tell me. If you are given a choice that Mr. Gautam Adani comes to you and wants to take a loan, will you deny? Just think of this. Will you deny? No. Look at the size of the market. Look at the size of the market capitalization. That is point number one. You can simply show the value of the company, borrow from different people. Second, let's say hypothetically, I am the owner. Hypothetically, I am not the owner, right? You also know that, I also know that. Hypothetically, I am the owner. Until yesterday, what was the price per share? What was the price per share? 150 rupees. Now, because of this, imagine the price per share is 175 rupees, which means the asset, that is the share I am holding here, the value of that is 175 rupees. Can I pledge the shares in the market and borrow from the market? Is it allowed? Think of it. Can I pledge the shares in the market and borrow from the market? Of course, yes, banks provide for this kind of facility. Right? So this is basically the idea. Any problem in understanding this? This is basically the accusation that has been done by Mr. the Hindenburg report. And some of you might be thinking, sir, what is the advantage for Mr. Gautam Adani? My dear, there is a term called as wealth. There is a term called as wealth. What do you mean by wealth? What is the value of the assets you are holding? What is the value of the assets you are holding? That is called as wealth. Right? You must have heard of many people. I'm cash rich, but I do not have assets. I hope you understand my statement. Right? Many people will say, I am cash rich, but I do not have assets. What is the meaning of it? I might be earning very high amount of salary today, but I don't have any physical assets with me. I don't have a home, right, which is owned by me. I don't have, let's say, gold. I don't have a car, right, etc., etc. That is basically the idea of a wealth, right? So understand the logic here. When the wealth is calculated, right, of richest people, the shares in a company is also calculated. The share prices, that is the market prices of the share, is also counted as a part of the wealth. Right? And that is a precise reason you must have seen, connect the dots now. the market prices of Adani companies has gone down. Is it okay? The market prices of Adani companies has gone down. And tell me what has happened to the ranking of Mr. Gautam Adani in terms of richest people. Right, in terms of the richest people, don't you think the ranking of Mr. Gautam Adani has also gone down? Right? That is a basic connection, because the wealth will erode, wealth will go down, and if the wealth goes down, automatically the ranking will also go down. Right, that is the connection here. Right, initially it was less than 10th, now it is more than 30th ranking. Right, that will keep on eroding now. Done. This is a basic idea. Right, now please understand, that's a reason, sir, why are you discussing all of this? Nowhere it is, nowhere else in the book it is given, because it is there in the current affairs. It is there in the current affairs. That's the reason I'm discussing. Okay, now before I take a break, any other doubts you people have? Any doubts that you people have regarding what I've discussed? How holding maximum number of shares and issuing a fraction of the shares increases the price of the shares? Supply and demand. Simple. Supply and demand. Now you tell me, in the last 2 years, how many times have you come across the news about Adani group of companies? Simple. Adani group of companies. How many times have you come across the news wherein they're saying Adani group of companies will now maintain 7 airports? Adani group of companies has purchased cement companies. Adani group of companies, right, will mine out coal here. Adani group of companies, right, will set up electric company there, will maintain port there. My dear, the demand for the shares automatically increase. You might not be involved in the stock market, but there are many other investors in the market who want to purchase shares of a company because they believe that these companies are going to perform very well, which means already the demand for the shares of already the demand for the shares of Adani group, it's already high. In that situation, in that particular time period, now through other means, what if the demand for these particular shares further goes up, which means market prices will further go up. Okay, done. Any difficulty here? DTAA, double taxation avoidance agreement. Simple. What is a double taxation avoidance agreement? Under the double taxation avoidance agreement, the countries will sign the agreements, right, in order to ensure that there is no double taxation, or there on the source of income there are no taxes imposed by both of the countries. Right, that is basically the idea of double taxation avoidance agreement. Are these legal? Right, again, it will not be strictly legal, it's very shady. Please be very careful. Don't say, sir, you are anti-India. All of these are allegations. Supreme Court of India set up a panel. Right, I'll also take the stand of Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court of India has set up a panel. The panel will look into it. But again, please be very careful. Supreme Court is not looking into whether Mr. Gautam Adani has done wrong or not. Absolutely no. Right, what Supreme Court of India stated is completely different. That is where you need to be very careful when you read newspapers. What Supreme Court of India stated is, in all of this, whatever has happened, in all of this, did we have anything to protect the interest of investors? I hope you understand my statement now. What has the Supreme Court of India stated? Well, whatever is happening in all of this, right, I hope you understand, in all of this, do we have any guidelines which are there to protect investors? Supreme Court has not asked the panel to look whether Mr. Gautam Adani has done something wrong or not. Absolutely no. Although what happened was basically misleading. Misleading in the sense, Adani group of companies came out and stated, now the truth will come out. How? How the truth will come out? Right, again, I'm not against the group of companies. I'm simply saying, don't be, right, fooled by these kind of statements in the newspapers. Right, Supreme Court of India has set up a panel, but the panel Okay, good evening everyone. Am I audible? Am I audible now? Can we start? Okay, let's continue. So what I'm discussing, we are discussing FDI. I've not yet entered into FPI. We'll go to FPI later. Don't worry. We'll finish the FDI first. One more concept related to FDI, concept of depository receipt. DR, depository receipt. Now, what is this idea of a depository receipt? Right, let's have an understanding here. First and foremost, please remember this. RBI classifies depository receipt as a part of FDI. Is it okay? I'll repeat it. RBI has classified the deposit receipt as a part of FDI. It is part of FDI. Remember that. Now, what is this idea of a depository receipt? Let's start. Deposit receipts are nothing but financial instruments. These are nothing but financial instruments which represent publicly traded shares issued by a company in foreign or offshore market. Please look at the last point. Last part of the statement, please have a look at it. It is a financial instrument, just like shares, bonds, etc. It's a financial instrument. It's a financial instrument which is issued by a company. It is issued by a company in a foreign or an offshore market. Now I'm using the term company. Some of the books, rather than using the term company, they will also use the term financial institution. Why? I'll tell you. Just give me a minute, I'll tell you. Instead of the term company, they will also use the term financial institution. But what is the basic idea here? What's the basic idea? All of you know Infosys is an Indian company. Any difficulty, please do let me know. Infosys is an Indian company. Zomato, Indian company. Right? Now, can you purchase Zomato's shares in India? Are you allowed to do that? Of course, yes. Can you purchase the shares of, let's say, Infosys? Yes. Can you purchase Adani group of companies shares in India? Again, the answer is yes. What is the idea here? All these are Indian companies. They have already listed their shares in the market, that is in the Indian market. You can purchase, I can purchase because we are there in India. Now come to the next point. What if, simple example, what if Zomato or let's say Infosys, they want to issue shares in USA? Is it okay? They have already issued shares in India. They want to issue shares in USA. Are they allowed to do that? Of course, yes, they are allowed to do that. But the process, right, follow this point carefully. But the process that they are supposed to follow, go to the regulator there, submit all the documentation, right, provide additional information, etc., etc., etc. It's a time consuming process. It's a very lengthy process. So what they are allowed to do, right, they can issue shares, but is there any other alternative? Is there any other possibility where I will not take lot of time, right, to issue these shares in the market? There is an alternative called as depository receipts. There is this concept of depository receipts. What is this depository receipt? Rather than Infosys directly listing their shares in, let's say, New York, there is a stock market in New York, NYSE. Just like Bombay Stock Exchange, New York is a place in USA, New York Stock Exchange. So rather than getting their shares listed in the New York Stock Exchange, what can Infosys do now? They are allowed to issue one more instrument which is called as a depository receipt. I hope you understand this. They can issue shares, but that is a very time consuming process. But they are allowed to issue one more instrument. The time consumption is much more lesser. The guidelines, right, for listing this is much more easier. So what they can do is, rather than listing shares in the New York Stock Exchange, they can list one more product which is called as depository receipt. But what is this depository receipt? The depository receipts are basically deriving their value from, let's say, shares of a company. Is it okay? I hope you understand this. Deposit receipts, right? Basically, it's a type of instrument. It doesn't have any individual value like this. It will derive its value from, let's say, 10 shares of Infosys company. 10 shares of Infosys company. Any difficulty, please do let me know. Why is the Infosys company doing this? Why not directly list the shares of Infosys? The time taken is very long. The process is very difficult. It's a time consuming process. But on the other hand, they are allowed to issue one more type of an instrument in USA, which are called as a depository receipts. Right? Let's say one depository is equal to 10 shares of Infosys company. So you will sell this deposit receipt in USA, you will be able to raise the money from the USA market. This concept is called as a depository receipt. And now please have a look at it. Is the Infosys company issuing depository receipts in India? No. Infosys is an Indian company. Are they issuing deposit receipts in India? Absolutely no. They are issuing outside India. Can I call this as a foreign or offshore market? Can I call this as a foreign or an offshore market? So always remember this. The DR, I'll start using the short form. The DR is not issued in the home market. It is issued in the foreign market. Point number one. Now, what is the underlying asset? Underlying asset means the deposit receipt will derive the value from what? It will derive the value from shares of the company. Is the logic okay? It will derive the value from shares of the company. It simply means rather than purchasing the shares directly like this, you have purchased a deposit receipt whose value is equal to 10 shares of Infosys. Because the deposit receipt is associated with the shares of the company, all the DRs will be counted as a part of FDI. All these DRs will be counted as a part of FDI in India. That is RBI guideline. Please remember this. This is one of the ways. This is one more methodology through which companies, domestic companies, will be able to raise money from the foreign investors. This is one more type of a tool that is used by the domestic companies to raise money from the foreign investors. So the logic is simple. Rather than directly listing the shares, we will sell other instruments whose value is connected to number of shares. And that is the idea called as a depository receipt. Now imagine an Indian company will issue shares in USA, deposit receipts in USA. So when we issue the depository receipts in USA, these are called as American depository receipts. That is any foreign company. The company can come from Britain, company could be Indian, company could be Chinese, any foreign company. If they issue the depository receipts in USA, these are called as American depository receipts. Right? Idea is DRs are issued in the USA. That is the reason American depository receipts. What if they are issued, let's say, in the European market? That is, can Infosys go to, let's say, Britain market, issue the depository receipt in the Britain market? That is also allowed. Whenever these are issued in the European market, these are called as global depository receipts. And finally, just like Infosys goes to the USA, can Apple company issue the depository receipts in India? Can the Apple do that? Of course, yes. Can Tesla do that? Of course, yes. Can Alphabet do that? Again, the answer is yes. So when foreign companies will come to India, issue the depository receipts in India, these are called as Indian depository receipts. Any difficulty here? Please do let me know. Right? It's a very typical, right? Not a normal tool. These are the types of securities or instruments which the domestic companies will use to issue in the foreign market, to raise money from the foreign market, right? And these instruments are called as depository receipts. And I've used the term, it is issued by financial institution. Why? There is a reason. Infosys cannot directly go to USA market and start issuing them, right? What they will do is they will approach an institution in USA. They will approach, let's say, a bank in USA, submit the shares, and it is that bank in USA which will issue these deposit receipts on behalf of Infosys. That is the reason they can say depository receipts are the instruments issued by a domestic company in a foreign market, or they can simply say these are issued on behalf of a domestic company by a financial institution but in a foreign market, right? That is a concept of depository receipt. Okay, explain again with an example. My dear, I started with an example only. Let's say Zomato company wants to issue shares in USA. They will say this is very lengthy process, I don't want to do this. Rather, they will issue one more type of an instrument, depository receipts in the USA market, and collect money from USA market. When they are issuing in the USA market, we'll call this as American depository receipts. They are issuing, let's say, in the European market, it is referred as global depository receipts. How trade DR in India? Just like you trade shares, deposit receipts are traded. Just like you trade, right, the shares in the market, depository receipts are traded. These are instrument. Don't you trade bonds in the market? Don't you trade shares in the market? In the same way, depository receipts are also traded. Right? It's the same idea. So basically the same idea. Okay. Next is FPI. Since DRs have underlying value of the shares, why they are called as FD and not FPI? My dear, because these are associated with shares. Shares are associated with ownership, equity. Shares are associated with ownership, that is equity. That's the reason RBI classifies this as FDI. Are these receipts sold online with bidding or simply one can buy? Generally, whenever these DRs are issued, they will go through the stock market. That is, they will announce that we are issuing the deposit receipts of so much and so much. You can subscribe for this. Okay. Okay. FPI. So FDI is done. Let me enter into next concept. FPI, foreign portfolio investment. Now, before I was discussing the FDI, there were a couple of students who were asking, sir, I came across the term FII, but you are using the term FPI. What is the meaning of it? Please understand this. As per SEBI, as per Securities Exchange Board of India, FPI will be classified into two types, or you can have the two types of categories under FPI. I'll write it as the category 1 and category 2. Two types of FPI. Whenever you talk about category 1, you generally talk about institutions. Institutions such as, let's say, investment funds, or let's say insurance funds, pension funds, etc. Now, don't you think insurance company, pension company, these are nothing but financial institutions? I hope you understand this. Whenever you talk about pension company, insurance company, can I call them as financial institutions? And right, these types of investors are referred to as foreign institutional investors. Foreign institutional investors. FII, foreign institutional investors. Sir, if institutions are here, who else will invest in the Indian market? What about individuals? What about individuals? Are individuals, foreign individuals, allowed to invest in the Indian market? Of course, yes. Of course, yes. For example, you are an individual. Can you invest in the USA stock market? Answer is yes, by the way. Are you allowed to invest in the USA stock market? Yes. Are you allowed to invest in, let's say, London Stock Exchange? Yes. Just like you are investing in the American market, can there be American citizens, American investors who will invest in India? Again, the answer is yes. So whenever you talk about individuals, the family offices, charitable organizations, etc., these are categorized under second one. Whenever you talk about institutions, right, such as pension funds, insurance funds, investment funds, these are categorized under first one. So first one, if you talk about insurance companies, if you talk about pension companies, these are collectively referred to as foreign institutional investors. Any difficulty in understanding this? Sir, what is the FII? What is FPI? FII is a part of FPI. Simple. FII is a type of FPI only. Right? So foreign portfolio investment. Now this is a categorization. SEBI has two types of categories of FPI. Now how they are allowed to invest in India? Right? How these types of investors, either institutional or individual investors, how are they allowed to invest in India? Right? So these are the different types of routes. One, FII, I've already covered it. Second and third, I'll cover it now. Follow this very carefully. These are from current affairs. One is called as a fully accessible route. Second one is called as a voluntary retention route. VRR and FAR. Let's start. Right, before FAR, I'll come back to this. Let me start with voluntary retention route. Now I'll ask you certain questions. Think of it, answer, and right, it becomes easier for you to understand all of this. Here are foreign investors. Here are, let's say, institutional investors who are investing in the Indian market. Now, what kind of a market? I will focus on bond market. This is important. I'll focus on bond market. Now, within the bond market, we can have corporate bonds. We can also have government bonds. Done? Within the bond market, we have corporate bonds. We also have government bonds. Now, simple question to you. Whatever investment is brought by the institutions into India like this, that is non-resident investments that will come into Indian market. Let's say focus on bond market. Tell me a very simple question. Should there be a limitation on how much they are allowed to invest in the bond market? In fact, we have discussed all of it. It's just a revision for you. Sir, where have you discussed it? Balance of payment. Should there be any limitation on it? Or should we simply say, bring in any amount of money, you bring in, you invest, you purchase, you sell, we will not ask any questions. Obviously, in the second case, if there is no limitation, the possibility that it will lead to a lot of volatility in the market is very, very high. Right? Is it okay? The possibility that it will lead to a lot of volatility is very high. So should we have a limitation or not? Of course, the answer is yes. We should have certain limitations on whenever they will try to invest in the bond market like this. But here is a concern that RBI says, because I've imposed limitations, what if there is a type of an investor who wants to invest, let's say, for 3 years in India? Understand this. Imagine there is a foreign investor, right, an institution, they want to invest for 3 years. Right? My concern was they would invest today and withdraw after 1 month. So I am imposing conditions. I am restricting how much dollars they are investing in the bond market. But what if there is a long investor? Right? An investor who wants to invest for 3-year duration. Should we impose the same limitations on them also? And is the logic okay? Should we impose the same kind of limitation on these investors who want to keep money in India for at least 3 years? Answer is no. We should not have those limitations. That is the precise reason. Have a look at this. Now there is a new type of a route which has been introduced by RBI, voluntary retention route. And remember this, voluntary retention route is available for both corporate bond market. VRR facility is available for both corporate bond market as well as government debt market. It is available for both of them. So what is the objective under this? RBI says there are certain institutional investors who want to invest for a longer duration in India, and they are not going to cause volatility in the market. So what I'll do, whatever restrictions are there, right, whatever conditions are there on their investment, I will withdraw these restrictions. I will reduce the limitation on their investment. I will allow them to invest more and more in the Indian bond market. Is it okay? I will allow them to invest more and more, because simple, they are not here to run away after 1 month. They are here to stay for long duration, 3 years, at least 3 years. Right? That is the basic concept of voluntary retention route. So have a look at this. Under the voluntary retention route, whatever regulatory restrictions are generally applicable in the bond market, these restrictions will be withdrawn. These restrictions will be relaxed. But there is a condition here. There is a condition. What is the condition? Anybody who wants to invest in India, right, that is a non-resident, anybody who wants to invest in the bond market under the voluntary retention route, they will have to give an undertaking to RBI. They will have to give a declaration to RBI. What is the declaration? They will have to say that at least 3/4 of their investment will remain in India for at least 3 years. Is it okay? I'll repeat it. Right? What is the condition here? Whatever conditions are there, I will relax those conditions on your investment in Indian bond market. But one promise that you'll have to do is, you will have to keep your money, that is at least 75% of your money, in India itself for at least 3 years. If you can give me that promise, I will relax the restrictions. I will relax the limitations on your investments in India. This is basically called as voluntary retention route. Initially, under the voluntary retention route, the amount that RBI allowed, right, from the foreign market to come, right, I hope you understand, under the voluntary retention route, the RBI allowed 75,000 crore rupees to come into India. Now this has been doubled to 1.5 lakh crore rupees. Right, so even under this, how much RBI will allow to come into India, right, that amount is limited. Right, so this is the concept of VRR, voluntary retention route. Any difficulty in understanding this? What is corporate bond and government debt? The corporate, that is companies, will issue bonds. That is called as a corporate bond market. And government will also issue bonds in the market. This is generally referred to as government securities or government debt market. Okay, one more route. Fully accessible route. FAR. Fully accessible route. What is this fully accessible route? Apply the same logic. Apply the same logic. Now, before you start asking me questions, follow the discussion. Understand the difference. Understand the difference here. Under the concept of VRR, you are going to be allowed to invest in corporate bond market, government bond market. You are allowed either of them. But there is one more facility which is launched by RBI, that is fully accessible route. FAR, fully accessible route. Under this, we will not target corporate bonds, we will target government bonds. We are not targeting inflow of foreign money in corporate bonds. No, we will target only government bonds. Right? What do you mean by targeting here? There are certain government bonds which are issued, which will have a duration or a maturity or a tenure of long term, such as 5-year, 10-year and 30-year bonds. Right? Government bonds which will have a maturity of or a tenure of 5, 10 and 30. Now imagine you're a foreign investor. You want to invest in, let's say, a 30-year government bond. You want to invest in a 30-year government bond. Then RBI says, whatever restrictions are there in the bond market, those restrictions will not be applicable to you. Is it okay? I'll repeat it. under the fully accessible route certain type of government securities, only certain types, not all the government securities, because government securities are of short duration, long duration, 91 day, 182 days, 182 days, 364 days, right? We have 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, 14, 30, 40-year bonds. These are the various types of government securities that we are issuing. RBI is not relaxing conditions on all of these bonds. No. RBI says, you want to invest in 5-year government securities? You want to invest in 10-year government securities? You want to invest in, right, 30-year government securities? Then whatever conditions were earlier applicable to you, those conditions, the limitation on the investment, these will be relaxed. You can bring more and more money, invest in specific type of government securities. Right? This route is called as fully accessible route. And again, please understand, this is not there in the corporate, it is there in the government bond. And within the government bond, not all the securities are availed or are available under the fully accessible route. Only some of them, which are identified by Reserve Bank of India, it is eligible under the fully accessible route. Right? So these are the two types of new routes which has been introduced by RBI to attract foreign investments in India. Right? That is again specifically in the bond market, right? The corporate bond market, the government bond market, etc. Any difficulty, please do let me know. We are our last point. The investment limits under this will be auctioned with key allocations criteria being retention period. That is, I said the amount of money that I want to attract under this is 1,50,000 crore rupees. But please understand, what if there is a demand for 2 lakh crore rupees worth of investments in India? That is, foreign investors, all of them have come and they say, all of us want to invest. And the total amount of money that they want to invest under VRR is 2 lakh crore rupees. Is it possible? The limit itself is 1,50,000. But they want to invest 2 lakh crore rupees. How is that possible? RBI says, in that case, I will give the priority to those investors who want to invest for longer duration in India. Simple. Right? The priority will be given to those investors who want to invest for longer duration. Retention means for how much time period you will keep the money in India. Right? So the priority will be the retention period here. Right? They will have to invest for a longer duration. Only then I will allow them to invest under this route. Okay? Any difficulty here? Any difficulty? So FDI is done, FPI is done. Right? Both FDI and FPI, it is over. It should be clear to you now. In general case, FDI, physical assets. In case of FPI, financial assets, shares, bonds, right, etc. like this. Okay, come to the next concept here. Next type of investment. Yes, easy. Special economic zone. Soros issue, is it linked to FPI? Right? Again, Soros issue is more associated with the currency. Right? Soros is more involved in the currencies, not in case of FPIs. Okay. In case of FDI, FPI, power resides with RBI. FDI, it is the government of India who will decide everything. It's government of India always. FPI, generally, understand this, some of the reforms, let's say in the context of foreign currencies in the bond market, etc., it is there with the RBI. RBI will formulate policies, but because they are investing in the stock market, overall regulations will go with SEBI. Right? Stock market, anything to do with the stock market, it is always a SEBI. Okay. Next, special economic zones. Yes, easy. Special economic zone. What is the definition of a special economic zone? Special economic zone is an area in which business and trade laws are different from the rest of the country. I'll give you explanation, follow this. SEZ refers to a region. It is an area wherein the laws which are applicable in this region are slightly different compared to the laws which are applicable to rest of the part of the country. Sir, what do you mean by this? I'll give a very simple example. Follow this carefully. Imagine this is India. Again, underline the term, strongly underline the term imagine, because I know, this is not India. I know that it doesn't look like India as well. So have a look at this. Imagine this is India, and let's say here is a region. I will call this region as a special economic zone. Sir, who will identify which is SEZ? Government of India. Government of India, will notify which region is SEZ, which is not SEZ. So have a look at this. Imagine this is India, and this corner part is SEZ, and now the remaining part, I hope you understand when I say this. Now the remaining part is this. Is it visible to all of you? I'm using black marker now. The remaining part is the black color, let's say the crisscross lines. The remaining part of the Indian market, now this will be referred to as domestic tariff area. The remaining part is called as DTA, domestic tariff area. That's point number one. Second point, when you say it is basically an area wherein the trade laws are slightly different compared to rest of the part of India. What do you mean by that? Let's take a simple example. You have a company to manufacture the bottle, but that company is present in the special economic zone. I hope you understand. That company is present in the special economic zone. I also have a company to manufacture the similar bottle, but it is there in the domestic tariff area. Now, what is the importance of all of this? Let's say both of us will import raw material. Both of us will import raw material. Now, when you import the raw material, government will not impose any taxes. No import taxes will be imposed on it. But when I impose a raw material, government will impose, let's say, 10% tax on it. Now you will ask me, sir, why? Why is that so? Don't you think that's unfair, etc., etc.? Absolutely no. You are present in the special economic zone. You will import raw material. You will produce the good. This good has to be exported. Simple. The production that is done in the special economic zone, the reason we don't impose a taxes on it, it is because we want to export the product. We don't want to manufacture and sell it in India. No, that is not the objective. We want to import the raw material, produce the good, and export the good. Now, when you import the raw material, if the government will impose taxes on the raw material, don't you think the cost of the bottle will increase? And when the cost of the bottle increases, do you think your exports are competitive in the market? Don't you think? The export competitiveness will automatically fall down. Whereas I have imported raw material, I am not in SEZ. I am outside SEZ. I could manufacture the bottle, sell it in the domestic market. I could export it, I can use it for multiple purposes. So Government of India says, because the production in the SEZ is for export purposes, I will not impose taxes when they import anything. They will import a machinery. I will not impose taxes. They will import raw material. I will not impose taxes. Why? If I impose taxes, then automatically the cost of production increases. Export competitiveness will come down. That is the reason I said, whenever you talk about special economic zones, these are nothing but certain regions which are identified, notified by the government, but the laws which are applicable in that region are different compared to rest of the economic territory. Any difficulty in understanding the definition here? Please do let me know. Any difficulty? One more way of defining what is a special economic zones is simply it is a duty-free territory. It is a duty-free territory, meaning what? You import anything, right? You import a machinery, you import, let's say, raw materials. There are no duties applicable on it. But if the same machine is imported by somebody else outside SEZ, that is in the domestic tariff area, duties would automatically become applicable. Right? That is the basic concept of the special economic zones. Right? That is basically the concept of special economic zones. Yes, easy. Point number one. Point number two, if you have set up, let's say, a manufacturing facility, if you have set up a manufacturing facility, or let's say even service sector entity within SEZ, government says for first 5 years, do not pay any taxes. Right? Understand this. For first 5 years, do not pay any taxes. Again, what taxes? Corporate taxes. Do not pay any taxes. 100% tax exemption will be provided. And after 5 years is over, for the next 5 years, another 50% tax exemption will be provided. That is, let's say hypothetically, today you will set up a unit in the SEZ. For the first 5 years, whatever profit you earn, do not pay any corporate tax to government. And after 5 years is over, from 6th year to 10 years, whatever taxes you are supposed to pay, half of it you pay to the government. Right? So tax exemption is being provided. Next one, whatever is the output in the SEZ, we want to export it. But please understand, now some of you will ask me, sir, what if I'm not able to export it? Right? Agreed. Right? You say that we want to manufacture and export it. What if I'm not able to export the product? What if I'm not able to export the services? Then what is the other option available to me? The government says you can sell the product even in the domestic market. Right? I'll repeat it. The government allows you to sell the product in the domestic market. But now there is one condition. What is the condition? You have imported raw material to manufacture the bottle. And when you imported raw material, you did not pay any tax on the raw material. You have manufactured the bottle. You want to sell the bottle in India. Government of India will treat the bottle as import. Is it okay? Government of India will treat the bottle as import. And whatever tax is applicable on the import of the bottle, they will impose the tax on the bottle. Is it okay? Next one, no import duty on any imported goods, but these units in the SEZ have to be net foreign exchange earners. Right? These units in the SEZ have to be net foreign exchange earners. What is the meaning of it? Let's start. Take the same example. You imported raw material and as a result of this, you paid $5. Done? You imported raw material, you paid $5. Now you will also export. You will also export, as a result of which dollars will flow into India. So when you imported something, dollars will flow out of India. And when you export something, dollars will flow into India. What is this idea of a net foreign exchange earner? What is the idea here? The value of the dollars that you are bringing into India should be greater than the value of dollars which you are taking out of India. Is it okay? Please do let me know. Right? If you have a problem, please do let me know. I'll repeat it. What is the meaning of a net foreign exchange earner? You are importing certain raw material, as a result of which dollars will go out of India. You will export something, as a result of which dollars will flow into India. The amount of dollars that you bring into India should be greater than amount of dollars that you have paid because you have imported something. That is basically called as net foreign exchange earner. right? This is one more condition for you to be present in the special economic zones. All the facilities which are developed in the special economic zones, these are developed by private companies. You take up any SEZ for that matter, right? For example, again, sir, any SEZ, I can give you the names of SEZ, but that is not required for you, right? You must have seen software companies or software tech park. Have you seen software tech parks? Generally in large cities, for example, Chennai, Bangalore, Noida, there are a lot of these software tech parks. These software tech parks are nothing but special economic zones, right? So understand this, whatever infrastructure is needed, development, maintenance of these special economic zones, it is done by the private sector developers. Government doesn't develop them, private sector companies will develop it. The act, what is the act here? Special Economic Zone Act 2005. Special Economic Zone Act of 2005, SEZ Act of 2005. The SEZ Act of 2005 provides for single window clearance. Right? What do you mean by single window clearance? You want to set up an SEZ, but the problem is that you are supposed to take, let's say, 5 licenses from the state government, 5 more licenses from the central government. That will take a lot of time for you. It is a very time consuming process. There is no transparency. There could be corruption in the system, etc., etc., etc. So what Government of India now says is, we will not follow that. What we will do is, we will follow a single window clearance. What is the meaning of single window clearance? We will appoint only one authority. Whatever clearances you require, you will get all these clearances only from one authority. Is the logic okay? Let me know. Right? Is the concept of single window clearance okay with all of you? Right? What is the idea of a single window clearance? All the licenses or the approvals that you require, you don't have to go to different authorities. Only one point, at one authority, you will be issued all of these licenses. Right? So the SEZ Act provides for single window clearance. Now, can I give you one more statement? Let me know if you disagree with me. The single window clearance process implemented by the government will promote ease of doing business. I will repeat the statement. The single window clearance system, and government has this in multiple sectors. The single window clearance system that the government has implemented in NIMZ or SEZ, etc., will promote ease of doing business. And the answer is yes, by the way. You should not think of it. Answer is yes. Right? So Act provides for single window clearance system. The authority is Board of Approval, BOA. The authority name is Board of Approval, and this authority has the secretaries from various ministries. From various ministries, secretaries are member of this Board of Approval. So if you apply for a license for SEZ, right, it is the Board of Authority which will give you all the licenses. Okay. So these are certain very important features, right? These are certain very important features regarding special economic zone. Right? Any issue related to this? Please do let me know. Any issue? Special investment region. What do you mean by special investment region? I don't know. Right? Please clarify. Any issue? Is GIFT City and SEZ? Yes. Right? A GIFT City is an example of special economic zone itself. Okay. Okay. Now, how many SEZs we have set up so far? How many SEZs are operational? Should you remember all the data? Please do not by heart this data, because by now you should be thinking, sir, it is for September 2021 and we're in the month of March 2023. So number should have already changed. So from one year to next year, number will keep on changing. Don't by heart the data, but generally this is what is observed. Okay, more than 400 have been approved by the government, but operational are more than 200. Have a look at this. 267 as of September 2021, 267 SEZs were operational in India. Operational means which are actually functioning. Right, formally approved means government has notified that a region will be developed as SEZ, but it is not yet operational. Right, so more than 400 have been approved by the government. 260 plus are actually operating in India. The amount of investment in the SEZs, special economic zones, has increased. Obviously, because foreign companies have come, they have invested in the SEZs. Domestic companies have moved to the SEZs, they have made a lot of investment. Private sector has developed a lot of SEZs. So overall investment in the SEZs has actually increased. Third, the exports have increased from 5% of the total exports in 2005, right? It was around 5%, to more than 24% by 2016, and by 2018 and 19, 30% of the total exports done from India came from SEZ. Okay, right? So these are some of the facts, or let's say some of the factual information associated with performance of special economic zones. Any example of any SEZ? I'll give you an example. Global Trade Hub. Now you tell me, what do you understand by that? Where is this Global Trade Hub? Right, Global Village SEZ is there. Why? Right, hundreds of SEZs are there. That's the reason I'm saying, don't worry. Right, you don't trust me. I know that many people don't trust me. Trust UPSC at least. Because SEZ has started, concept of SEZ has started from 2005. From 2005. So more than 17 years now. Check all the 17 years question paper. Check whether any question has been asked on individual SEZ. I hope you understand. More than 400 have been approved. More than 250 are working. Right? In majority of bigger cities, industrial cities, you will see these SEZs. Right? If you see, let's say, outskirts of Bangalore, right, multiple SEZs are there. Chennai, multiple SEZs are there. Right? Noida, multiple SEZs are there. Gurugram, multiple SEZs are there. Okay? Done. What are the issues with the SEZs? 2 or 3 examples. Again, you can check it. You can check it. I don't have any problem. You want to buy heart it, please buy heart. Okay. Now, what are the issues with the functioning of SEZs, special economic zones? Let's start. First one, the pandemic has affected the performance of special economic zones. Right, the exports from the SEZs have been affected, and again, this is not just applicable to SEZ. Any part of India, if you take up, pandemic most of the times will be having effect on this. So special economic zones, exports have been affected because of the pandemic. Second one, most of the units within the SEZs, are service sector units. IT stands for Information Technology. ITES stands for Information Technology Enabled Services. Okay, IT stands for Information Technology and ITES stands for Information Technology Enabled Services. So most of the units within the SEZ, as per CAG report, Comptroller Auditor General report, more than 67% of the units within the SEZs are service sector units. But why it is a problem? Right? Why service sector units is a problem? Because when the model of special economic zone was proposed, when back in the year 2004 we were discussing special economic zones, the government then proposed the idea of a SEZ to promote manufacturing. Is it okay? I hope you understand. Right? And even when I took examples and I explained to you, I was focusing on manufacturing only. So when this model of special economic zone was actually proposed, discussed in the parliament, etc., Government of India, right, proposed this idea to promote manufacturing in India. But what has happened in reality? Most of the units within the special economic zones are service sector units, not a manufacturing unit. So the concentration of service sector units within the SEZ is very, very high. Third, lot of issues with the land acquisition. Lot of issues with the land acquisition. Right, the state is supposed to help the private sector to acquire the land, right? But many of the times the land rights are not clear. The land has fallen into a dispute, etc., etc., etc. Right, so problem with acquiring land for development of these SEZs. Next, the land which has been acquired, but we are not able to utilize the land. Sir, why? Why is that? If you have acquired the land, you should develop it. Not necessary. Right, because let's say two private sector, that is two people, two investors came together and they have proposed to develop an SEZ. They have prepared a plan, they have proposed it to government. Government also has agreed, okay, you develop. But what if somewhere midway, right, the land acquisition case will arise and the court will start hearing the case? One example. Second, somewhere midway, one of the partner will quit. Right, the partner says, I'm incurring losses, I don't have money to invest now, I want to move out of the agreement. Or somewhere midway, I'm developing, but the judiciary will observe that it is in a very sensitive area. So they will impose certain restrictions. Can there be possibilities like this? Right? Can there be possibilities? Of course, yes. So there are different possibilities like this, wherein land has been acquired, we are supposed to develop the project, but for various reasons, the land will remain unutilized. The SEZ project will not be developed. And next, right, imagine you have developed the project. SEZ is ready. It is operational, but the companies are not moving into SEZ. Can I give you examples? In the last 2 years, lot of the companies, because of pandemic, they have incurred the losses. They have moved out of SEZs. They have simply said, we can't pay so much amount of money and remain in SEZ. I will go out of SEZ. And because when the private developer will develop and provide all the infrastructure, of course, the private developer will charge money to you if you are going to use that infrastructure. So a lot of companies which had plans to move into SEZ, they have said, no, we don't want to enter into this. And a lot of companies which were there in SEZ, because they have incurred losses, they have decided, let's move out of SEZ. And some of you might simply think, sir, but that has happened only recently. Don't you think the same kind of impact would have been felt in 2008 and 9? Right, so that is the reason. Land has been acquired, project has not been completed. Project is completed, but space, that is office space, is there. Nobody is ready to utilize the space. The subsidies earlier which were given by the government, MEIS subsidy, SEIS subsidy, they were found to be violating the agreement of WTO. And what has the government of India done? Government of India has withdrawn or basically suspended these kinds of subsidy schemes, which has also affected the productivity of the SEZs. And finally, what about the complementary infrastructure, such as port infrastructure, high-speed broadband connectivity, right, uninterrupted power supply, water supply, etc. Right, so there is also a problem related to, right, the complementary infrastructure availability for the MEIs, for the SEZs. Done. So these are some of the problems, some of the issues that are being faced by special economic zones. Any problem? Let me know. Any problem? MEIS stands for Merchandise Exports from India scheme, part of the foreign trade policy where subsidies were given. The scheme has been withdrawn. How do service units benefit if they are in SEZ? Can you please? Again, service units will benefit wherever they are present. But the argument here is, over a period of time, the service sector unit, especially software units, have moved a lot. They have moved a lot into these SEZs. And they are going to enjoy the benefit of 0% corporate taxes. Okay, any other issue? Any other issue? Can I go forward? Is it a scheme of the center or the state? It's not a scheme per se. It is basically a policy. It's not a scheme, it's a policy, a type of a policy of Government of India, special economic zone. Industrial area is different from SEZs. Yes, industrial area could be anything, right? The government, that is generally state government. State government denotes all of it. Okay. MEIS, merchandise exports from India scheme. That's the reason I keep on telling you people. If you have joined recently, don't panic. MEIS was discussed, I believe, in the 3rd week. We're in the 5th week. Right? The scheme was discussed. Right now, if I start discussing the foreign trade policy all over again, we'll take one full day only for that. Right? So if that is already over, don't worry. Right? Later, when we are going to conduct the classes for weekend again, please join. Get all those classes. Can a state notify area in SSC? No, it is a central government. Right? It is a central government. State doesn't have that power because the policy was introduced by the central government. Okay, done. Next one is a Baba Kalyani committee report. Okay, Baba Kalyani committee report. Right, have a look at this. What are the recommendations? Again, please be very careful. This report, I believe, was published given to the government around 4 to 5 years ago. So far, Government of India has not done anything regarding this. You might expect in the coming days certain changes in the SEZ. Right? Why? Last year, the Government of India announced that they want to restructure. They want to restructure the SEZ policy in India. But so far, nothing has been done. Have patience. Suddenly, somewhere, right? Let's say one fine day, Government of India will come to you and say, "This is the new SEZ policy. Read it. It is relevant for civil services." So, what are the recommendations of the committee? One, right now, the concept of special economic zones is that we are giving incentives which are connected to exports. I hope you remember MEIS, right? Merchandise exports from India scheme, service exports from India scheme. Under both of them, can I say that the incentives that are given to the companies is connected to exports? And whenever you provide these kinds of incentives, obviously other countries will challenge you, and they went to WTO. India lost that case. Now, what should be done then? Should we altogether stop SEZ as a concept? Obviously, no. What this committee says is, let's restructure, right? Let's restructure the special economic zone. Right? We will call this new model as employment and economic enclaves. Employment and economic enclaves. What is the idea under the employment and economic enclaves? Now, Government of India should provide incentives to these companies, not based on the exports. Let them provide the incentives based on number of jobs created, based on the amount of investment done. Right? So these regions now will be promoted for creation of employment. These regions will be promoted to attract more and more investment. Because if I connect the incentives to, let's say, employment generation, obviously the companies, in order to earn subsidies, will create a lot of jobs. If I connect the amount of subsidy to, let's say, investment done, in order to get the subsidy, companies now will be forced to invest more and more in the market. So point number one, right, SEZ is the policy should be restructured. Call it as employment economic enclaves. And point number two, whatever incentives that you're providing, link it with parameters such as investment, minimum amount of investment. Link it with number of jobs created, etc., etc. Point number two. Point number three, sunset clause. Now, before I explain what is there here, what is the meaning of sunset clause? Sunset clause is nothing but expiry date. Sunset clause is nothing but expiry date. Now, what is this sunset clause that I'm referring to? Simple. If you remember earlier, I told if you start a manufacturing unit or let's say service sector unit in an SEZ, for the first 5 years, right, the government will provide, let's say, 100% tax exemption to you. For the next 5 years, another 50% tax exemption will be provided. But now the question arises, for how many years this exemption should be provided? We have launched the policy back in 2005. I hope you understand. The SEZ policy, Special Economic Zone, was launched back in 2005. So can we keep on providing incentives throughout perpetuity? Can we keep on giving incentives for 100 years? Of course no. So there should be a time period. There should be a limit for how many years, or once the policy is implemented, this tax exemption will be available to companies for how many years? There should be a limit. And the government of India had initially stated 2020. 15 years, 2020. Once I start implementing 2005, after that for 15 years, this policy will be applicable. And after 15 years, automatically the tax exemption will be removed. Meaning, if you set up a manufacturing unit after 15 years in the special economic zone, then basically government will not give you any tax exemption. That was basically a sunset clause. Any difficulty here? Sunset clause is nothing but expiry date, right? Expiry date for a particular provision. So once the policy of SEZ was implemented, the tax exemption was available only for 15 years. From that date, 15 years. After that 15-year duration, no tax exemptions. Right? That is the reason. Right now, this committee says you are going to implement sunset clause. You are going to remove the tax exemptions. You will not give any tax incentives for these people, which means investment would be affected. Right? Why would anybody invest in the SEZ now? Right? Because they are not going to enjoy any kind of a tax benefit. So what you will have to do is increase the incentives. Do not withdraw it. Increase the incentives so that you will attract more and more investment. Next, lot of services are there. Apart from IT and ITES, lot of other services are also there. Why not we promote, right, other services growth in the SEZs, or let's say employment economic enclaves? Sir, what do you mean by other services? Yesterday's list, if you remember, can I say financial services? Just think of it. Can I give you one example? Financial services or healthcare related services. Healthcare related services. So right now, most of the units within the SEZ are service sector. And within the service sector, most of them are IT and ITES. But we also have other types of services. Why are we not promoting the units of other type of services within the SEZ? Next, the rules and procedures to set up manufacturing and service sector SEZ, it is same. For both of them, the operating procedures, it is one and the same. The standard operating procedure, same is used. The committee says no. For setting up of a manufacturing SEZ, we should have a separate procedure. For setting up of, let's say, a service sector SEZ, procedure should be different. Right? That is one more recommendation. Next one, right? Implement certain policies. Have a framework. Under that, implement certain measures which will promote ease of doing business. Which will promote ease of doing business within the EEs further. And finally, there is a problem with respect to infrastructure. We do not have sufficient infrastructure. By the way, we will discuss infrastructure. Don't worry. Don't say, sir, multiple times you have written problem with infrastructure. You have not discussed anything. We'll discuss problems with road infrastructure, problems with, let's say, port infrastructure, problems with, right, water transportation in India. We'll discuss all of them. Have patience. Right? So you need to increase the amount of infrastructure that is available, quality of infrastructure, so that the competitiveness of India's exports automatically increases. So these are some of the recommendations provided by Baba Kalyani Committee. Any difficulty? Any problem here? Please do let me know. Any problem in any of the recommendations? Right, again, these are slightly older recommendations. Many years are over now. So far, none of them have been implemented by the government. Right, over a period of time, you can come across any one of them. Sunset clause, again, I'll repeat it. Sunset means the end of a provision. So government said, I will bring in SEZ policy, but the tax exemption will be available for 15 years. Once the policy comes into force, any company can avail the tax exemption for 15 years from 2005. So 2020, basically it's a expiry year. So the tax exemption law or tax exemption provision will now be withdrawn. You will not be given any tax exemption if you start operating in the SEZ now. Right? This committee says no, please don't do that. Right? Continue the tax exemptions. In fact, give more and more incentives. Okay, done. Right, so this is Baba Kalyani committee. Next one is NIMZ. Sir, if SEZ bring some raw material from within the country, then import duty, no, not import duty, GST is applicable. GST is applicable. Okay, so next one is NIMZ. But before that, let's take a break. Let's take a break. Right, any doubts that you people have, right, please ask it. Otherwise, we'll take a break. Do the company need to buy or lease the land? It all depends on the company. Most of the companies end up purchasing the land rights. But you tell me, do you think UPSC will ask this question? Just think of it. Right? No, that's a reason. Again, this is just a concern of mine. Just a concern. Right? Don't try to read everything about concepts. Right? Then you will not be able to finish anything in economics. Okay, let's take a break. Let's take a break. Time is 5:11. I'll start at 5:40. I'll start at 5:40 p.m. Okay, join again. Let's continue with NIMZ.